Yeah, if I could, thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council, or soon to be Mayor and Council. Good evening, and to our guests in the audience. Our agenda will start here in just a minute, but the first thing noted on our agenda for this evening is to do the official ceremony swearing in of our newest council members and mayor. And so I would invite Mayor-elect or Mayor Shack down to the front, as well as Dr. Kimberly Wilburn, at-large council member, and also Deb Calvert, at-large council member. You won your prospective elections this November, and we will first do the swearing in as facilitated by our city attorney, Eric Nelson.
All right, we'll, I think, start with Mayor Shack and then go Council Member at Large, Seat A, and then Council Member at Large, Seat B. All right. Could you please raise your right hand? I, Rebecca Shack,
I, Rebecca Shack,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of Mayor of the City of Minnetonka
discharge the duties of Mayor of the City of Minnetonka,
in the County of Hennepin,
County of Hennepin,
to which I have been duly elected,
to which I have been duly elected,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Okay. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Deb Calvert,
I, Deb Calvert,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge
the duties of the office of Council Member at Large, Seat A,
the duties of the office of Council Member at Large, Seat A,
in the City of Minnetonka,
in the City of Minnetonka,
in the County of Hennepin,
in the County of Hennepin,
to which I have been duly elected,
to which I have been duly elected,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Kimberly Wilburn,
I, Kimberly Wilburn,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of the office of Council Member at Large, Seat B,
discharge the duties of the office of Council Member at Large, Seat B,
of the City of Minnetonka,
of the City of Minnetonka,
in the County of Hennepin,
in the County of Hennepin,
to which I have been duly elected,
to which I have been duly elected,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability,
So help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Okay. We're just going to take a couple minutes, do some photos, and we'll get on with the meeting. Good evening. Today is January 12th, 2026, and this is a regular meeting of the Minnetonka City Council, and I'll call this meeting to order. I'd ask everybody who's able to please join us and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Kuzman, would you please call roll?
Calvert.
Here.
Remaley. Here. Coakley.
Here.
Foster Bolton.
Here.
Wilburn. Here. Shack.
Here. All right. Before we get to approval of the agenda, being that it's a new year, the first meeting of the year, it's my first meeting, so I will ask everybody to please bear with me in particularly unusual times when I'm just getting my sea legs. So we may have some hiccups, but we're going to do the best we can. We are implementing trying to make our meetings a little more efficient, so in the interest of doing so, and also because we've had some concerns about people not wanting to give their addresses, we're asking people to fill out one of these little cards that is in right outside of council chambers, indicating if you would like to speak either on item 8, which is citizens wishing to discuss matters not on the agenda, or we're going to take some public comment on items 14B and 14C. And that relates to the filling of my former seat, the Ward 2 council seat, and also the discussion regarding the resolution related to the local sales tax. So if you intend to speak or think you may want to speak during any of those items, please go ahead, fill out a card. There's a box back there. We'll be collecting them throughout the meeting. And we just a reminder, and I'll mention this again, we are also going to, for item 8, citizens wishing to discuss items not on the agenda, ask folks to keep their comments brief and no longer than 3 minutes. So as you prepare your comments, keep that in mind. All right, moving along, we'll go to approval of the agenda, and Mr. Funk, there's an addendum.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening. There is an addenda for your consideration this evening related to item 14C, which is a resolution supporting the authority to impose a local sales tax to fund capital improvements. As you know, we do publish our packets on Thursdays. This last week it was on Friday. We did receive additional comments after publication in the packet. This addenda does forward those to you for your consideration. With that, Mayor and Council, staff recommends to approve the agenda as amended with these additions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Funk, and I would take a motion to approve the agenda. Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I did give Mr. Funk one little suggestion in the minutes, and other than that, that's for the agenda. Yeah, I move approval of the agenda as amended.
And a second, Councilmember Remaley.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion by Councilmember Calvert, a second by Councilmember Remaley. Ms. Kuzman, please call roll.
Calvert.
Yes.
Remaley.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes. Motion carries. All right. Item number 5, approval of the minutes. And we have 4 sets of minutes. October 27th, 2025 study session, November 17th, 2025 study session, December 8th, 2025 regular meeting minutes, and December 15th, 2025 study session minutes. I take any comments or a motion. Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I did have a slight suggestion for a change to comments that I made on page 9 of the December 8th regular meeting minutes. And other than that, I move approval of the October 27th, 2025 study session minutes, the November 17th, 2025 study session minutes, the December 8th, 2025 regular meeting minutes, and the December 15th, 2025 study session minutes.
And a second, Councilmember Coakley.
I'll second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Councilmember Calvert and a second by Councilmember Coakley. Ms. Kuzman, please call roll.
Calvert,
Yes.
Rameli,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Shack.
Yes, motion carries. On to item number 6, special matters, and we have none of those tonight. And so we'll move on to item number 7, and that's reports from city manager and council members. Mr. Funk.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. Again, good evening. First, just want to start by saying Happy New Year. This is our first meeting of 2026, and really just give my best to our mayor, our council, our staff, and to everyone in our community. We wish everyone a merry 2026. Just a couple items coming up. With the change in the calendar year, we do have some fun community events coming up. First, just want to mention Family Fun Day. That is coming up on Saturday, January 24th. That will be held at Fire Station 1, which is right here on our City Hall campus. Residents from the community will have an opportunity to meet with our firefighters, explore the fire trucks and our equipment. We will have chili and hot cider. Also, a sensory room is available for those in need of a quiet and calm environment, and the time of that event will be from 10 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. So really looking forward to Family Fun Day. It's one of our favorite fun events of the year. We have many community engagement activities, and this is just one that I'll mention. I also want to take a minute to talk about our sustainability challenge. One of the objectives of the city and our council and our sustainability commission is our sustainability efforts. And so for February, there is a plastic-free challenge. This is for anyone that wants to be part of a solution to reduce wastewater, water, protect water and wildlife, address climate change, and look after the health of ourselves and the future of our community and generations to come. So I just encourage anyone that has an interest in our event to check out more of our details on the city's website. And then last, one of our favorite winter community events is Kids Fest. So another community engagement opportunity on Sunday, February 1st. That's from 11 o'clock a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. in the community center. We'll have horse-drawn trolley rides. There's a DJ dance party for kids and perhaps kids of all ages, face paintings, crafts, and bonfires. So again, encourage the community to come out in the next couple weekends and really get engaged with some of the activities that the city is hosting. With that, Mayor and Council, I'll turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Funk. And ordinarily, we'd turn the floor over to council members, but I think my council is going to indulge me tonight. I have prepared a statement. I usually am one to speak off the cuff, but I'm going to read something that I prepared tonight. So I will start, and then we'll give an opportunity for for the council members here to give their reports as well. All right. On Monday, January 5th, 2026, it was my honor to be officially sworn in as mayor of Minnetonka. Since then, communities across Minnesota have witnessed a significant surge in federal law enforcement presence tied to an ongoing immigration enforcement operation, and in Minneapolis, a tragic encounter between the Federal Immigration and Customs Enforcement agent and a local resident resulted in the death of a 37-year-old woman, Renee Nicole Good. Miss Good's death has deeply affected families and civic life across our state and has sparked widespread public concern, protests, and urgent calls for transparency, accountability, and justice. While this event occurred in Minneapolis, a place where I work and go to every day, the ripple effects are being felt across Hennepin County and throughout our region. Many of our residents are asking legitimate questions about federal enforcement actions, the use of force, and respect of civil liberties. Questions that deserve thoughtful and constitutional responses. Questions to which we don't necessarily have all the answers. As mayor, and as a licensed attorney in Minnesota, I've taken an oath and have an obligation to uphold the United States Constitution. I want to be clear, the Constitution remains our highest law. We will continue to uphold the fundamental rights guaranteed to every person within our jurisdiction, including due process, freedom of speech and assembly, and protection against unreasonable use of force. Local law enforcement's role is to keep our community safe. The Minnetonka Police Department and other local public safety agencies will continue to protect our residents and visitors, respond to emergencies, and ensure lawful protests and civic engagement are conducted peacefully and without fear of repression. People should feel comfortable calling Minnetonka law enforcement to assist them. Federal authorities operating within Minnetonka or Hennepin County must do so in a way that respects individual rights, the rule of law, and the community's safety. I will continue to implore our federal representatives to ensure proper warrants are obtained, civil liberties are protected, and due process is honored for all involved. Finally, I urge calm, compassion, and respect for one another. We can disagree on policy and enforcement, but we may never abandon our commitments to constitutional principles and human dignity. Thank you, Council, for indulging me. Thank you. We don't usually take applause, and we'll try to hold applause for the rest of the meeting. I understand people are very emotional, and I will turn it over to my council for their reports and any comments they have tonight. Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you very much, Mayor, and thank you for your very important words, and I concur with everything that you said. And I also prepared something because this is not a great time to speak off the cuff, so I'll try to keep this brief. I have struggled all week about how to enter this new year of important work for the city of Minnetonka, and I simply could not start in a business as usual manner because there is nothing normal about what is happening around us. First, let me say I support and trust our Minnetonka Police Chief and our local police, and I want to reiterate what the Hennepin County Police Chiefs Association put out months ago, that local law enforcement does not enforce federal immigration policy and will not ever ask the immigration status of people in our community. They take an oath to protect the public safety, and that is what they will do. If you need help from our public safety personnel, you should feel comfortable calling 911. And I want you all to know that I'm here, me, to serve and protect the people who live, work, study, and play in Minnetonka. I just got sworn in to uphold our Constitution moments ago. I actually did it officially a week ago, and I take that oath very seriously. My phone number and email is on the website, and if you need support or you need a trusted public servant, please call me. Let me preface my other remarks by saying that the immigration system has needed reform for decades under many administrations. We do need immigration policy reform and better pathways to citizenship for the people who harvest and prepare our food, care for our grandparents and children, beautify our landscapes, build our homes, and work in all of our industries, including medicine and science. I believe immigration laws should be followed, and for the overwhelming number of Minnesota residents, they do follow them. I also believe in due process. I also believe that we are a nation of immigrants and are made stronger by immigrants and have benefited immeasurably by taking in the huddled masses yearning to breathe free. I am the granddaughter of immigrants who fled oppression. I'm not going to change the views of people on the shooting death of Renee Good at the hand of federal agents. But I will say this, it wasn't best practice for law enforcement or public safety, and what is happening in Minnesota is not normal, and it is certainly not a normal any of us should feel comfortable with. In a state where legislators were shot and killed by a man impersonating an officer, in a world where anyone can buy a tactical vest on Amazon, I understand how people do not feel safer with masked, armed people with very little training and no interest in de-escalation, banging on their doors, arresting American citizens and other people at their places of work because they appear one way or another, stopping their cars, or pepper spraying students at their school. It is creating chaos and fear for our school children, for our neighbors, and for our law enforcement. And it distracts from the regular duties, which are plenty. People have been asking What can I do? What can you do to make our community safer? First of all, know your rights and how immigration laws work. You can visit our website for information. We have a Know Your Rights section, or go to sites like the Immigrant Defense Project, Monarca, or the Immigrant Law Center websites to access frequently asked questions, training, and resources. Support your local businesses who are immigrant-owned or employ immigrants, like our wonderful Asian and Hispanic restaurants. Stay peaceful. Keep your distance from federal agents and do not obstruct or impede to keep yourselves and your neighbors safe. Check in with your friends and neighbors, volunteer at your schools, and practice kindness. And above all, love your neighbor. And I will also say, along the lines of loving your neighbor, that the only synagogue in Jackson, Mississippi was burned just a few days ago, irreparably. And this is the kind of, they're still trying to get the bottom of it. They're fairly certain it wasn't arson. And we really do need to find ways to love each other and hold each other up and support each other, because it's a very difficult time for a lot of people. And this nation was built on people, on the backs of people that worked hard and worked their way up and were different than other people. And the reason that we are so great is our diversity. So we need to cherish that diversity and reach out to people that are hurting right now. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Calvert. And we really are going to try to keep the wheels on this meeting. So I understand the passion, but let's try to refrain from applause. Would like anybody else? Councilmember Wilburn.
Okay, so mine are kind of off the cuff, but I've been thinking about what I want to say to people all week. And so I want to acknowledge what what our mayor and fellow councilperson have said, and that I agree with them wholeheartedly. I want to talk a little bit more, and this is me as your council member, but this is not me speaking for the city, and this is me speaking as an individual. We once again have become unwilling witnesses to a murder. I know what I saw, and this, due process hopefully will be followed, and there will be a trial, and I'm not a judge. I'm not passing a sentence. I know what I saw, and I know that we are not okay. And so I want to also put myself out there as someone that you can contact if you have some questions. If you have some questions, if you want to speak about what's going on, what we can do as citizens, I think I will look for other avenues to talk about what citizens can do, and how to protect ourselves and how to protect our neighbors, because there is being an illegal terror campaign waged upon us, in my opinion. So that is it.
Thank you, Councilmember Wilburn. Councilmember Foster Bolton.
I do thank you for what you said, your prepared statements, and Councilmember Calvert. And what I would like to visit your neighbors. Find your immigrant neighbors. This weekend I went out and I didn't know who they were, but we went to their house, my husband and I, and wrote a note saying we support you, and if there's anything we can do, our phone numbers and our address. And one woman was in tears because it means so much. She might not need food delivered at that time, but she needs to know that we're on her side personally, her neighbors. I'm your neighbor and I care. And I contacted ICA today, and I do want to start, because in the city they have lots of resources and signal groups where people shop for targeted communities, and I think we need something out here in the West Metro. And so, again, and you can contact me. I'm waiting to hear. I'll hear by end of day tomorrow, because I know that everybody wants to help, and I think there's the need out here. If you're able to go to the city and help in the city, I think that would be great too. But people need. I think the most important thing, though, is find your neighbors, the people who live by you, the people who can see where you live. The other two places that we went to really did want to know where's your house, and so that they could, know us and know that we're there and know that our door is open, and that if they need a place to go, we're here for them. And I think Black and brown people are going to be struggling and donate money and donate food, because restaurants in the suburbs too, the Muni is closed for a few days because they don't have the workers. Yum, they have the owners working in the kitchens. So reach out and say, what can I do to help? Stand across the schools and check for ice and blow your whistles if you see them. I mean, every little bit counts. And check in on your neighbors. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Councilmember Foster Bolton. Councilmember Rameli.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to my colleagues who have spoken so eloquently and said so many of the things that I had hoped to say. I'll just start, try to keep this brief. Last Wednesday, I had the privilege of giving a Boy Scout troop a tour of City Hall and talking with them about local government and democracy. It was a true bright spot in an otherwise absolutely horrific day. I want to express my deepest sympathy and condolences to Renee Good's family and her community in the wake of her brutal killing. She should still be here, and may her memory be a blessing. To the residents who have contacted me, and there have been a number of you, about ICE activity in Minnetonka, I understand and I appreciate your anger and fear. This federal incursion into our state and community is unprecedented and alarming. At the same time, if and when you protest, volunteer as a constitutional observer, or in other ways, I implore you and urge you to do so peacefully and within your legal rights and responsibilities. That can be hard sometimes in this situation, but do keep your head and act within the law. Personally, for me, I'm not going to repeat things that other people have said, but I do want to share something because this situation hits hard. Well, my family has been in this community for 5 generations. For over a decade, I worked and lived for extended periods in the former Soviet Union, then the Soviet Union, and then in post-Soviet Russia as an academic researcher and the director of 2 nonprofits. I haven't been able to go back since the invasion of Crimea. Russia was and is again today a brutal totalitarian state. People can and are swept up by squads of government thugs who patrol the streets and the metros. They can be beaten and arrested for any or for no reason at all. Peacefully protesting, telling an anti-Putin joke or an anti-war joke because of the color of their skin if they look Chechen, or because of their accent if it happens to be Ukrainian. Russians dare not speak openly on the telephone, once again as in the Soviet period, or by email now, or on social media. Government lies and fear again permeate society. I spent so much time there and knew the signs so very well, but never before fully believed that it could ever happen here. Then last week, after an ICE raid at a home construction site in my ward, I helped secure several cars. The workers were not allowed to get their keys, to lock their cars, or take any tools or belongings of their own that they had to leave there. So when I and several others went to secure their cars, we found a car seat and toys in another, and ever since then I've been haunted by whether that child was picked up that day. In another, we found Social Security card and immigration papers. Obviously, those didn't matter, due process. I have also been contacted by residents who have been physically threatened, thrown to the ground, pepper sprayed, and had guns pulled and put in their faces by ICE as they were acting as a constitutional observer or protesting in a nonviolent manner, including here in Minnetonka. Those are constitutionally protected rights. In the last few days in nearby communities, doors have been kicked in, and worse. When I was sworn into this position, I swore an oath, even though I didn't take it tonight again, to uphold the Constitution, and I pledged to do everything within my power to do so, and also to uphold the rule of law and democracy, especially and starting right here in Minnetonka. I pledge to uphold the city's mission to be a welcoming and safe community for all who live, work, and visit here. And I know my fellow council members, and I believe staff feel the same, that we are determined not to wait, but determine all available legal and other actions that we can take in that regard, whether it be resolutions or ordinances, to the clear and transparent police policies, some of which were outlined here tonight, to clear and broad communications to educate businesses and residents as to their rights. Thank you for your patience in listening to all of us. I know it looks like some of you may have your own stories to tell, and just again, hold your neighbors close, your community close. Reach out, see what you can do with them. I'm here to have your back. As other council members have said, please feel free to reach out to me if you need a trusted public official and elected in Minnetonka. If you have other questions about how you can make a difference and help neighbors in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Rameli. Councilmember Coakley?
Thank you, Mayor. I also didn't really write anything, but I've been actually thinking about what I was going to say as well. And I usually talk a lot, but I'm kind of a little speechless about how I feel with everything that's been happening. For me, I carry a lot of weight with seeing what's happening across our state and our community and city of Minnetonka. You know, how I deal with things, I usually try to reach out to folks that I know that's going to be more impacted, and I have done that, and some people are not responding because I think it's even to the point where folks that are immigrants are even scared to respond to elected officials who they know usually they can trust. Today I talked to one of my employees who family is an immigrant, and this is a young person who's like 27 years old, and he told me today, he said, Kizzy, you know, I went to school to learn about law because I felt like if I learned about law, then I could support my family who is from Mexico. He said, I went to school and I worked really hard to educate myself. And he said to me today, with tears in his eyes, no matter how well I educated myself, I cannot help my family right now. And he said that, you know, this makes me scared. He said, I don't want to come into work. I work for the state of Minnesota. And he said, I'm afraid to drive into work. I'm afraid what's going to happen to my family. And he said, furthermore, I'm afraid what's going to happen to me. So I said, me being a new supervisor, I said, let me talk to our staff or our manager and see what they say. So we told them to make however you need to make yourself feel safe. You know, if you need to work from home, work from home. So that was what was recommended. And then I talked to another person who works, and she's a born citizen here, but she has brown skin. And she told me that she was arrested because they thought she was from Mexico or an immigrant. And recently I told the mayor, Rebecca, on Saturday that I don't want to call anyone an immigrant anymore because you just don't know who is and who not. And what does it matter if a person is an immigrant if you're going right by if you're preserving our law, our democracy here in this state? It doesn't really matter if you're an immigrant or not. So for me, it's about people and really caring about people. Do we really love people? Do we care about our neighbors? Do we care about our friends? And people are human. So it's not really about like this immigration thing for me. It's about people and giving people hope where now people don't have that hope. So what can we do to support other folks in our communities, our neighbors? And you know, resources. I'm really big about resources because sometimes people do need that support. And what can we do as a city to make sure people know where the resources are at? And so I'm always open to a phone call. I always say don't call me after 8:30 because I'm an early bird. So, but I'm open to phone calls, and you know, if I need to support, you know, maybe drive someone to the store or something like that, or go shopping for someone. I used to be an Uber driver, so I don't mind doing those type of things, but I'm willing to support where I can. And I just encourage all of us to, you know, give grace to where grace is needed and just give a little bit more hope. And that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Coakley, and thank you to my council members. You know, it's been a really hard week. It's a hard week to take the seat as mayor, but I do believe this council has been through, many of us have been through a lot of hard things together, and we're up to the task, and we're here for the community. I'm so grateful to have this council and to have our wonderful staff who have been very accessible and are open to conversations with us about how we can be impactful to the community. So I'm really hopeful that we can find a way out of this, and at our next regular meeting that we'll be able to report on some of the fun events that Mr. Funk referenced earlier. But in the meantime, we'll move on to item number 8, which is citizens wishing to discuss matters not on the agenda. And I'm just going to read another little summary regarding how this process is going to work both today and as we go forward. He gave his report. Yep. We're good, right? Okay. So,
Madam Mayor.
yes.
Do you want to step in?
Mayor, if you would read the report or give some summary on the city manager review process.
Oh, I had that after 8, but I will do that right now.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we move into citizens wishing to discuss matters not on the agenda, during a special study session on Monday, December 22nd, the council went into closed session to conduct city manager performance evaluation pursuant to Minnesota statute section 13D.055 subdivision 3A. By state law, a summary must be given at the next public meeting that follows the closed session, and it must include the conclusions reached by the council. City Manager Mike Funk was rated by council and 8 directors in key areas and additional questions, and they provided additional questions for comment. During the closed session, members of the City Council reviewed the ratings, provided feedback, and conducted goal setting with Mr. Funk, and I am pleased to announce that on behalf of the City Council, he received a satisfactory performance evaluation. Thank you, Mr. Funk and Ms. Dahman, for the reminder. All right, moving on. Item number 8. So, before we hear from speakers in the audience tonight, I'd like to take a brief moment to provide some guidance. This meeting is a limited public forum, And this is the point on the agenda where we invite members of the public to address the council on matters that are not on the printed agenda but still relate to the affairs of the city or are pertinent to city business. For example, this could be a matter within the legislative, fiscal, operational, or regulatory purview of the city. I'm going to ask speakers to limit their comments to 3 minutes. We are not going to take action on the items presented to us or respond to any questions asked, but we may refer matters to staff for appropriate follow-up. So I have the cards that were submitted. You don't have to take the whole 3 minutes. We've got quite a few people who do want to make comment, but that's how we're going to manage it. Please keep an eye on the clock, and when it gets down to 0, please wrap up your comment. And if you go on for too long, I'm going to have no choice but to interrupt you, which I would prefer not to do. All right. So it would be really helpful if folks, if you haven't included your address on the comment card, if you could please state your address when you come up for comment. And I am going to just go in order that these comments are, or these cards are in my hand. So be prepared to come up quickly. The first person I have is Carla Hennis.
My name is Carla Hennis, and I live at 15231 Nomphill Curve in Minnetonka. As a legal observer, I have been present at some pretty horrific sites, including at the Ridgedale Library, which I understand, yes, was run by the county, but could have happened also at any other library. A large number of heavily armed guns, tasers, paintball, 30 plus charging through a library with children present. And within sight of the sheriff that was standing there, I had an ICE agent come up behind me. I was just standing on the sidewalk, physically shove me very hard, and say, "Stop touching me," shoving me from behind before he did this, within sight of the sheriff deputies. My question is, if something like that happened, what would the Minnetonka police do other than just stand there? Would they be able to step in for my safety from ICE as a US citizen, or anybody, but not interfering with the immigration action that I could not stop? I could only observe. And that is all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Hennis. Kevin Francis, apologize. We're identifying the downside of the cards, which is handwriting.
My awful handwriting. Nice to see you all. Kevin Francis, 15815 Minnetonka Boulevard. You all said it very well at the outset here. And what I would like to do as one of your residents who elected you as my representative government is say, how can we take this and make it a call to action? This didn't happen from what we did here in the city of Minnetonka. It's happening to us. And that requires us to think probably less conservatively than maybe we would naturally, and maybe more proactively around issuing statements, and what my fellow resident just said too, around guidelines on how we expect our law enforcement here in the city of Minnetonka to react. So I appreciate all of your thoughtful comments here. I'm here to help. I'd love to help you draft this message. I'd love to help you with the communications, but my hope is that we take all of this really great thought here and move it to action. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Francis. I got a good suggestion that we give people a heads up. So up next is Kevin Peterson, and after that will be Nate Thornton, and then Steve Supan. Mr. Peterson, thank you.
Mayor Shack, congratulations on your appointment to mayor, city council. My name's Kevin Peterson. I'm not a resident of Minnetonka. I'm a resident of Plymouth. I am a business owner, kind of self-made across Minnesota and Wisconsin. Employ about 90 people across the 2 states. As I mentioned, I'm a resident of Plymouth with my 3 daughters and my lovely wife. Over the last 45 days, and this isn't immigration related or anything else, I just want to preface that, but after the last 45 days, I've been completing an investigation of the Hennepin County budget and historical spending, as well as completed a few data requests, etc. And through that research, I made a decision that I'm going to go engage with about 20 cities across all the different districts within Hennepin County and bring a couple things to everyone's attention. So one is that I think all the mayors within Hennepin County should galvanize around 2 or 3 things. One being that we need property tax reform, both on the assessment process as well as on the determination of how that money is spent. 2 is that an audit of the Hennepin County budget should be done specifically around 50% of the spend, which is around health and human services. And third, I just want to share a couple data points. And again, I'm not sharing an opinion. I'm just sharing some data points that I found through my research. The first data point. I requested the last 8 years of nonprofit spending within the county. And I only received spending for the year of 2025. Within the year of 2025, Hennepin County spent $150 million on nonprofits and across 600 nonprofits. So put that in perspective. There's 55 square miles of Minneapolis. Hennepin County spent money towards 8 to 9 nonprofits per square mile. In comparison, there's only 2 public schools per square mile in Minneapolis. Data point number 2. I took a look at the overall property tax spend, and Hennepin County receives around $1.2 billion in receipts for property taxes. 40% come from Minneapolis, 60% come from municipalities outside of Minneapolis. Of that money, $319 million is spent on human services, $129 million is spent solely on debt service, $64 million spent on the health system, $38 million of which is spent to recoup uncompensated medical services within the Hennepin County health system. And $26 million is spent on a category called disparity elimination, which is more spent on disparity elimination than CIP and Public Works combined.
Mr. Peterson, you're over 3 minutes.
Okay.
I'll ask you to wrap it up.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to leave you with this one piece, and that is I believe that it's a moral hazard that the property owners outside of Minneapolis, through property tax payments, are subsidizing the mismanagement of Minneapolis. Thank you for your time.
Nate Thornton, and then Steve Supan, and then Hannah Thornton. Hello, Mr. Thornton.
My name is Nate Thornton, and I'm a resident of Minnetonka for 18 years. Six years ago, we rebuilt our home. It was because of immigrants and their descendants that we could afford to do it. They framed our house, they installed our windows, they hung our sheetrock. And just last year, as hail damaged nearly every home in Minnetonka, it was those same hardworking folks who repaired them. In one day, they'd have a roof torn apart and put back together. Another roof for another 30 years. Every one of us has benefited from the labor of immigrants. So let's help them. ICE is terrorizing our neighborhoods. I've got a baton drawn on me. We don't need this. These people just want to help us. They just want to work. ICE is not here to help us. Immigrants are. I urge you to join with the cities of Minneapolis and St. Paul and lead the suburbs in opposition to this occupation by joining their lawsuit that opposes this on constitutional grounds.
Thank you, Mr. Thornton. Mr. Supan, Hannah Thornton, and then Rachel McCraig Mahmood. Good evening,
My
Mr.
name is
Supan.
Steve. Ready?
Go
Okay.
ahead.
My name is Steve Supan, a resident of Minnetonka since 1996. I am concerned about how the targeting of Minnesota by federal immigration enforcement agents will affect Minnetonka's economy and the civil rights of Minnetonkaans. For example, at the Ridgedale YMCA, where I'm a member, and the Ridgedale Library, where ICE agents briefly blocked access in December and traumatized children. A U.S. Supreme Court decision in September, Nome versus Vasquez Perdomo, allows ICE agents to detain people based on their, quote, perceived ethnicity, unquote, and or for speaking a language other than English. Detention numbers resulting from so-called Kavanaugh stops have skyrocketed. I have 3 questions for the council about the consequences for Minnetonka of Kavanaugh stops. First, could the council authorize a survey of Minnetonka businesses, including child care centers, to determine what, if any, economic and social impacts have resulted from ICE detentions at businesses and work sites in Minnetonka? Second, although agents are not sworn police officers, they often identify themselves as police during traffic stops and unwarranted entry into homes. Will the council ask Minnetonka police to determine the extent to which, if any, ICE impersonations of police officers have affected public safety in Minnetonka, for example, through lack of cooperation of Minnetonka residents with Minnetonka police? My third and final question concerns the ICE practice of illegally entering private homes without signed judicial warrants. An ICE warrant, quote unquote, is not a judicial warrant. How can the city of Minnetonka ensure that Minnetonka residents, including U.S. citizens, know their rights when ICE demands entry into a home without a signed judicial warrant? Thank you for your consideration of these questions. I have copies of these questions for the mayor and the council members, and would be happy to further discuss them with you.
Thank you, Mr. Supan. Hannah Thornton. And following Hannah will be Rachel McGregor Mahmood.
Hi, my name is Hannah Thornton. I'm a citizen here at Minnetonka, or here in Minnetonka. I feel compelled to use my voice and any privilege I have to speak up about the atrocities I and countless others have witnessed due to the presence of ICE in our community. I have seen firsthand the rage and unmitigated anger of an ICE officer when I went to be a constitutional observer at an abduction of community members at a business on Highway 101. The officers already traumatized the lives of these workers, yet that was not good enough for their insatiable desire for complete control. They brandished their weapons and threatened my husband with it. All of this because we dared to bear witness to their crimes. Minnetonka claims that it is a safe and welcoming community, striving to make space for all. What are you doing about ICE? How much more suffering needs to occur before you step up and say no more in our city? We should not feel safe for a moment, or a moment of comfort, until this terror ends. My question to you, as someone who is bound to the Constitution, what are you willing to do? It might feel uncomfortable, but what are we willing to do? Humanity is for all, regardless of background. Now that Minneapolis and St. Paul have taken a stand against this reign of terror, when will Minnetonka say enough is enough and join hands with our bigger sisters, cities? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thornton. The last person I have on this item is Rachel McGregor Mahmood.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Rachel McCarg Mahmood. I'm a native Minnesotan. I left with my family to the Dallas Metroplex about 10 years ago. The last 5 years we were living in Texas were very challenging for my family in countless ways. As parents, we questioned raising our child in that environment. It was totally fraught with division. I was a public education advocate, and I watched a once thriving destination school district morph into a place where books were banned, veteran teachers were fired due to political affiliation, and parents were pitted against each other. After the COVID pandemic, we were able to move back to Minnesota. Minnesota has always been my home. It's always been something that made me proud. And so we ended up choosing Minnetonka because it had a great reputation as a thriving school district, and the community was also strong from what I heard. But this past month has me feeling the same sick feelings that I had when I was living in Texas the last few years. There is a fear in this community. This is not just a Minneapolis issue. It's not just a city issue. This is a suburban issue now. It's also a rural issue, and it's affecting our community members here. Persons of color are being targeted, profiled, and left in fear. Their families are in fear, not just them. And no one should have to live in this fear. I know firsthand that fear because my husband, who's originally from Bangladesh, came here to Minnesota in 1994 on a student visa. He became a permanent resident and then was a naturalized U.S. citizen in 2013. He now has to feel the need to carry his passport just to go get milk. And that's just not okay. So I'm speaking here not just for my family, but for the other families that can't be here. Oh, my time is running low and I have so much to say. I'm just going to do a couple highlights. To local law enforcement, we really need you to communicate where you stand in protection. I want to know, are you collaborating with ICE? Maybe not. I know that you guys said that you really trust them, but we need to feel better about this. I want commitment from law enforcement that you're working on behalf of the residents and the citizens here. A message to our schools. I just left today working at a school bus stop to make sure kids got on the bus. They were not harassed by ICE and their parents weren't taken from them. That is traumatizing. As a social worker, it's very traumatizing to see that. We are doing the work as community members. We are. I want to see what you guys do, not just what you say. I want this fear to go away. And I'm over time here. I had so much to say, but thank you. I appreciate your opening statements today. It makes me feel better, and now we just want to see action. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll move. We've got one more card here, and then if there's anybody else, I'd encourage you to line up as we implement this new process. We'll have a little bit of grace, but Bria Murphy.
Hi, my name's Bria Murphy. I have lived in Minnetonka for 3 years. I also attended Minnetonka Academy just about 2 years ago so that I could feel very confident and comfortable in understanding exactly what it is that you all here in this room are elected to do and can do. While I still have a lot to learn there, the great news is I can talk really fast to get through my bullet points. In addition to what all of my neighbors here have shared and said, I want to share a perspective that this weekend was horrifying in this city. I have a perspective of being a moderator of a local social media group. It's not a big deal, but people were terrified, posting sightings of ICE, not documenting that they were in this neighborhood or in this neighborhood or in this parking lot, and verifying these, and it was horrifying. And the radio silence was unacceptable from the top down in this state and in this city. So the three things that I specifically want to share today are about the ripple effects that you mentioned and the things that I'd like to see our city take a stand on and start building towards. So number one is the safety to stay home. You mentioned that there are people who need groceries. There are groups organizing to get those people together. We need to make sure people know how to access that and also keep the bad actors out of that. Kids can't go to school right now Kids can't go out to recess. How are we supporting the teachers who are doing that work, as well as the families? How are we making sure that they have the ability to keep their kids and themselves safe? We've got businesses temporarily closing. I know you mentioned the Muni. I just saw a post that the Tavern is also closing temporarily. We've got Nachos closing temporarily in Hopkins. All of these businesses that also directly impact the economy of our community. I also want to encourage us as a community and also this administration here to build safety, to speak out. We are seeing due process violations left and right. I want to know exactly what the police department in Minnetonka can do. And the last item here is I really want to think about the accountability that you all in this room and we all as citizens have to focus and make sure that the rest of the poem is not finished. We all know the poem. We all know the history. I want to understand what kind of communication can be done on a regular basis so the residents here do not have another weekend of terror like we just had this past weekend. I want to know how our police can help slow the roll of ICE. If they are breaking our law, we need to help them to slow down that work. If they are speeding, they need to be stopped and accounted for that work. I want to name what's happening here. Stop and frisk is far too muted for what is happening in our community. It is happening to everyone. Obviously our brown and black neighbors, but we need to name what is happening here. And I specifically want to understand what the regulatory purview of Minnetonka is able to do. For example, can we pause collecting rent in the city of Minnetonka while people figure out how to survive all of this? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I will give one last call. If there's anybody else that wants to speak, well, please come up to the podium. If there's anybody beyond this gentleman here, please stand up in line. Otherwise, we're going to close comments after this.
Hi, I wasn't going to say anything tonight, but I am inspired to. My name's Eric Hayward. I live at 15319 Lake Street Extension, which is 4 minutes from here. My son, Lucas, was born in Guatemala. He is a United States citizen. He is 21 years old and he came here when he was 2. So he has moved freely throughout the state of Minnesota and the United States as a United States citizen, enjoying all of those rights and privileges. I got him he's also on the autism spectrum. And he is I'm only 5'6", as you can tell. He is about this tall, beautiful Latino young man with flowing black hair. And I had to get him his passport card. And because he is on the autism spectrum, I've had to say, okay, repeat after me. I'm a United States citizen and I have my passport card. As of tonight, my wife spoke to his dad, his adoptive dad. I'm again his stepdad. We have decided he is no longer driving back and forth between our homes by himself. My family thought I was paranoid when I started talking about this. They have all come to me and said, Eric, Dad, we're sorry, you were right. Because as we all know, citizens are being taken. I saw a video today of a 15-year-old boy being harassed and taken in Minneapolis. So I've had very good experiences with Minnetonka police, very good experiences. I think my other teenager gave you guys some headaches at a few points. He was a trial for all of us. But if somebody shows up at my home that is not one of these fine officers, I am calling the police immediately. Because we are not doing anything illegal in our home. We are all citizens in our home. So I will call the Minnetonka police. As far as I'm concerned, if someone steps on my property wearing any sort of law enforcement identification and it is not these folks here, I am calling the police. And I have a sincere belief that they will do the right thing and they will protect my family, and I'm here to protect everybody else in this room as well. So I'm so nice to be here, and I'll probably come back because this was really great. So thank you so much. Thanks for letting me jump in.
Thank you. Thank you. Please come forward. State your name and address, please.
My name is Sarita Kelly, and I live at 11070 Cedar Hills Boulevard. I'm a very new member to this community. I moved here in October, and I was afraid to come tonight. I was even more nervous to get up and speak. I saw about this because someone posted it on Threads, and I thought, okay, I'll come, kind of feel out how people are. And I grew up in St. Paul my whole life, so when I told people where I was moving, the role of assumptions and stereotypes about Minnetonka, who lives here, came with, but obviously I moved anyways. Being here tonight, though, has been very comforting to hear not only you all speak, but everyone behind me speak. I, too, carry my passport ID card. I'm Mexican and black, and when Trump was inaugurated the second time that week, I applied for my passport and the ID so I could carry it with me, so I could at least say, hey, I'm a citizen, I have this. Not that it would matter in that scenario, but it's very comforting to hear everybody speak and to know that, you know, the stereotypes that my family has tried to kind of push so far have not been true. I have been welcomed by the people in my apartment, just random people on the street. So it's just very comforting, and I am very appreciative that you guys have taken the time out to speak about this. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kelly, and welcome to Minnetonka. We're glad to have you. Come on forward, please.
My name is Reed Holloman. I live at 17306 County Road 101 West. Wanted to thank the council, thank the mayor, thank everybody who showed up, sharing their thoughts and concerns about what we're going through right now. I want to confess I feel a little bit silly right now. My bingo card for 2026 did not include a paramilitary invasion of our city to conduct ethnic cleansing, and that's really what we're seeing. This is the administration's attempt to try to remake our community into their preferred image. And we as a community have been given a challenge. They are challenging us. They are trying to intimidate us. They are trying to divide us. And if they can't achieve their means by intimidation or division, they'll try coercion. Intimidation, we have people, brave people that are out on the streets, constitutional observers. They have to be there because we cannot trust ICE to follow their own processes. We cannot trust them to adhere to their sworn duty to serve the public. And I think it's imperative that those people that are putting themselves at risk understand that the city, and most importantly, the city's policemen, have their backs. When constitutional observers are out in an incident that involves ICE, if Minnetonka Police is there with body cameras as a witness to what's happening, I think it's much more likely that there's going to be de-escalation and that we're not going to have a violent incident like what happened with Renee Good. I also think that it's important that the city have a bold and aggressive response to what we're seeing. I think every community in the Twin Cities needs to have a full-throated and unambiguous support for what Minneapolis, what the governor, what our urban leaders are asking for. They need to know that this isn't an immigrant versus non-immigrant issue. This isn't a black versus people of color, white or people of color issue. This isn't an urban issue or a suburban issue. Our communities are attacked. No one is safe. They're counting, the administration's counting on our silence. They're counting on those fault lines that are in our community now so that communities like Minnetonka will stay silent and hope that it doesn't hit us too much. Hope it passes by. Hopefully maybe we can escape without being harmed too much. And I think we need to show support. We're in this. It's going to suck for the next several months. And I think we need to make the best of it as we can. The last thing I would say is we're not going to win this on the streets. We're going to win this in the courts and the court of public opinion. The Family Separation Act failed because enough people in this country saw images that they found abhorrent. The constitutional observers that are out there are getting that message out. We need to help them. And I think we also need to make sure that we're telling ICE what is appropriate behavior and response in our community. That means body cams should be on all the time. That means there should be ordinances that no police officer...
I'm going to ask you to
federal
wrap
officer-
it up.
All right, I'm getting there. Sorry about that. No federal officer should be conducting law enforcement with a mask. De-escalation requires both verbal and nonverbal cues. Someone with a mask and Oakley's makes the situation a lot more difficult. And then, I can't believe I have to say this, but there should be an ordinance that no one can have an unholstered firearm while operating a cell phone. We can't drive and operate a cell phone. We shouldn't be able to operate a firearm. And if those ordinances are in place, I don't expect that ICE is going to just automatically say, okay, yeah, I guess we'll adhere to that. But at some point, enough cities and states are going to be passing these ordinances. We can be part of that wave, and we can start putting some standards of behavior that need to be done. Thank you very much.
All right, come on up.
Madam Mayor, council members, my name is Renee Norton. I live at 11070 Cedar Hills Boulevard. Last August, 5 of us started the Whipple Watch, and I worked there in shift without pay every other day. Now I am patrolling in the local areas. I want to address the division that you may have mentioned between black and white and what's happening with ICE. Prefacing that, today I escorted 2 journalists around from Sweden who came here to look at us. So the world is watching us. I was sprayed twice today. Pardon me, don't get close to me. Pepper spray is not fun. I witnessed 2 minutes after a young 17-year-old white girl slammed on her brakes because I slammed their brakes on right in front of her. She immediately started recording with her cell phone. It's something that we all do. We've kind of learned this. As soon as that happened, the ICE agent reached through her door and window, threw her phone on the ground, and said, "I'm going to shoot you because you've got to learn a lesson." This poor girl, I have this on video. This poor girl then was dragged out of her car, thrown on the icy pavement, and cuffed. She was set up against the tire of the ICE agent's car. And soon after that, and again, I have this on video, she goes into a seizure. They finally laid her down. It was impossible. And I'm saying, call the ambulance, call 911, call. And what happened? The ICE agent said, "Get back or I'll shoot you." All right? This has got to stop. This is wrong. ICE cannot be allowed to go about their business thinking they can just harass anyone they want. And I'm tired of it. I hope you guys can join with me to stop it. We've got to make them accountable. ICE has to be accountable. And now that the Border Patrol's here, they're just as bad. With that, I want to say one more time, the world is looking at us. I know firsthand just today. And I want to thank you.
Thank you. All right, we don't have anybody else signed up, so we're going to close public comment. Thank you all for coming. We've got a full agenda, so if you're going to make your way out, just please do so quietly. All right, moving along, we have item number 9, which is bids and purchases. We have none of those tonight. Item number 10 is the consent agenda, items requiring a majority vote. And these are items that are considered routine in nature. We'll read through them, and as I read through them, if anybody on the council or in the audience wants us to pull one of these items to discuss them or ask a question, please indicate so. Otherwise, we can move approval of these items in one vote. So we have consent agenda item 10A, which is a cooperative construction agreement with Hennepin County and the Minnesota Department of Transportation for trunk highway number 394 signals at Ridgedale Drive and Plymouth Road. 10B is Purgatory Creek Restoration Maintenance Agreement between Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District and the City of Minnetonka. 10C is the 2026 Strategic Plan Action Steps. 10D is the 2026 Study Session Work Plan. 10E is designation of the official newspaper for 2026. 10F is City Manager 2026 compensation. 10G is a funding agreement for the Metropolitan Council's Livable Communities Demonstration Account Affordable Home Ownership Grant for the Homes Within Reach and Habitat for Humanity programs. 10A is the preliminary and final plats for Oakland Woods Estates, a 2-lot subdivision at 2203 Oakland Road. Are there any items that need to be pulled? Not seeing any, I would take a motion. Councilmember Wilburn.
I move approval of consent agenda items 10A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H.
Thank you, and I would take a second. Councilmember Foster Bolton.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Wilburn, a second by Councilmember Foster Bolton. Ms. Kuzman, would you please call roll?
Calvert?
Yes.
Romalee?
Yes.
Coakley?
Yes.
Foster Bolton?
Yes.
Wilburn?
Yes.
Shack?
Yes, motion carries. Similarly, we have the consent agenda items requiring 5 votes. Again, these are items that are routine in nature, just needing 5 votes. And we just have one of those tonight, and that is 11A, applications for renewed precious metal and secondhand dealer licenses for 2026. Anybody want to pull that? No? Otherwise, I would take a motion. Councilmember Calvert?
Thank you, Mayor. I move approval of consent agenda item 11A.
And a second. Councilmember Foster Bolton?
I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Calvert and a second by Councilmember Foster Bolton. Ms. Kuzman, please call roll.
Calvert?
Yes.
Romalee?
Yes.
Coakley?
Yes.
Foster Bolton?
Yes.
Wilburn?
Yes.
Shack?
Yes. Motion carries. All right, moving on to item number 12, introduction of ordinance, which we have no introductions tonight. On to item number 13, which is public hearings. Item number 13A, which is the on-sale intoxicating liquor license and Sunday on-sale intoxicating license for Minnetonka Barbecue, Inc., doing business as Famous Dave's Barbecue Shack at 14601 State Highway 7. And Ms. Wishnock, that's you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and council members. This is just a continuation from your meeting that you had previously in November. At this time, we do have the full background that has been provided by the police department's investigation. That information was provided to the city council. We have discussed with the business owner any information in that background check, and we do recommend moving ahead and issuing the license. So the actual action for the council tonight is continue the public hearing, hear from anyone. By the way, the owner is on the line, and then we're recommending grant the licenses. With that, Mayor, I'll turn it back to you for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Wishnock. Any questions, council? Okay, this is a continued public hearing. The public hearing has been open. We would entertain any comments from the public. I believe we heard from the applicant at the last meeting, but if he has anything he would like to add, he's welcome to do so. No pressure. I think we kind of get what's going on here. I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. And any questions or discussion from council? Otherwise, we would entertain a motion. Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I make the motion to grant the licenses in item 13A.
I have a motion by Councilmember Calvert and Councilmember Foster Bolton.
I'll second.
And a second by Councilmember Foster Bolton. Ms. Kuzman, please call roll.
Calvert,
Yes.
Rameli,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Shack.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. All right. Excuse me. Moving on to item 13B, which is an ordinance amending the city charter establishing the number of members of the Charter Commission. And Mr. Nilsson, that's you.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. This first charter amendment was recommended by the Charter Commission at its annual meeting on November 18th. And the recommendation is to add a new section 2.12 to the city charter to establish a fixed membership number for the Charter Commission. The Charter Commission in Minnetonka has historically had 9 members for a fairly long period of time, at least as far back as I could tell. The membership has also included at least one member of the council. The practice has been the mayor, but the charter provisions currently provide that only one council member may serve. So it doesn't have to be the mayor, but that's been the practice. The chief judge of Hennepin County District Court appoints all of the Charter Commission members, and the state law provides that charter commissions, in terms of membership, must have not less than 7 members nor greater than 15. And so the membership could theoretically fluctuate depending on the number of interested parties, number of applicants, and the chief judge has ultimately the authority and the discretion to appoint as many as she sees fit. So the proposal here for our charter, which is allowed by state law, it provides that if you establish a fixed membership number in your charter, that controls going forward. So this is something other cities have done, and the city's charter is currently silent on the issue. So the proposal is to establish a fixed membership number of 9, consistent with past practice, that would have the flexibility to expand to 10 with the addition of a sitting council member. And so with that, I will stand for questions. The action that we are requesting is to hold the public hearing and then to adopt the ordinance. I will just note, because we're doing what's called a charter amendment by ordinance, and you're bypassing the ballot by doing it this way, it does require unanimous consent on the council. So it would require 6 affirmative votes, and then the amendment is effective 90 days after publication.
Thank you, Mr. Nilsson. Council, are there any questions about this fairly routine amendment, I would say? Not seeing any. I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak regarding this proposed ordinance amendment or charter, regarding the charter? Anybody? One last time, anybody? Not seeing anybody, I'll close the public hearing. Any opening it up for discussion? Otherwise, we would take a motion to adopt the ordinance. Councilmember Rameli.
Thank you, Mayor. I will make the motion to hold the public hearing and adopt the ordinance. To adopt the ordinance. We already did the public hearing. So adopt the ordinance.
I would I have a motion by Councilmember Rameli and Councilmember Calvert.
I'll second.
And a second by Councilmember Calvert. Ms. Kuzman, please call roll.
Calvert,
Yes.
Rameli,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Shack.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Item 13C is another ordinance amending the city charter to reflect state law requirements regarding resident signature petitions. And again, Mr. Nilsson, that's you.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. This is another charter amendment recommended by the Charter Commission at its annual meeting in November of last year. This particular amendment seeks to provide greater clarity and alignment in the charter regarding resident signature petition requirements, reflective of state law requirements. We realized, it was actually an alert from the League of Minnesota Cities that alerted cities that many city charters that include petition requirements are missing some of these elements. And so it was a topic for the Charter Commission at its annual meeting. One thing to be really clear, these proposed amendments do not make any substantive changes to the law or process regarding initiative and referendum, which are the two signature petition elements that are provided for in the charter. Just to draw one distinction, the charter provides for initiative and referendum, and those each have their own requirements in terms of the number of signatures that must be obtained and the manner in which they must be obtained. The process to amend the city charter itself is set out in state law, so that is a separate and a different process, and that has its own requirements. So just to not create any confusion, this isn't this particular amendment addresses the form for initiative and referendum. Let's see. Again, it's a charter amendment by ordinance, not going to the ballot, and so state law does require unanimous consent, which with the current composition of the council would be 6 affirmative votes. And so with that, we are asking to hold the public hearing and then seeking a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Nilsson. Council, any questions regarding this one? Not seen any, I will open the public hearing and invite any comments regarding this charter amendment. Any comments? Last call. No comments. I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council again for discussion or a motion. Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment and then make the motion. I just wanted to let people know that we actually, there hasn't been a whole lot of discussion of these items because we've had study sessions to make sure that we're familiar with this kind of item before it comes up, especially because it is a charter amendment. So I just wanted to let members of the community that may be watching or listening know that we have considered these matters in study session. And with that, I'd like to make the motion to adopt the ordinance amending the city charter to reflect state law requirements regarding resident signature petitions.
Thank you, Councilmember Calvert. And a second, Councilmember Rameli.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll second.
Thank you. So I have a motion from Councilmember Calvert and a second by Councilmember Rameli. Ms. Kuzman, please call roll.
Calvert,
Yes.
Rameli,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Shack.
Yes, motion carries. Excellent. Okay. The next kind of set of items might be where we need a little bit more time. Does anybody need a break? Yes, let's keep it quick. Come back in 3 or 4 minutes to finish it up. All right, I think we can get back to it here. So we're on to item number 14, which is other business. 14A, acting mayor and alternate acting mayor, and I'll take this one. So pretty straightforward. Mr. Funk and I kind of went back through the history and pieced together who's up. And by my math, given kind of the shifts that we've had, the acting mayor is the Ward 1 council seat is up for that, which is Councilmember Foster Bolton. I spoke with her over the weekend, and she's willing to take that appointment. And the alternate acting mayor, that's Ward 4, is up for that. And I spoke with Councilmember Rameli this weekend as well, and she is up for that. So I will make the motion. I apologize. Number 3. I apologize. Yes. Misspoke. I will make the motion appointing Councilmember Foster Bolton as the acting mayor and appointing Councilmember Rameli as the alternate acting mayor for 2026. Councilmember Calvert.
I'll second.
Thank you. So you have a motion from the mayor and a second from Councilmember Calvert. Ms. Kuzman, please call roll.
Calvert?
Yes.
Rameli?
Yes.
Coakley?
Yes.
Foster Bolton?
Yes.
Wilburn?
Yes.
Shack?
Yes, motion carries. Thanks to those two council members for stepping up. Right, item 14B is Ward 2 council member appointment or special election discussion. And Mr. Nilsson, that's you.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. We're going to talk about and seek some direction from the council on the path forward for filling the Ward 2 seat, which became automatically vacant on January 5th when Ms. Shack was sworn in as mayor. So vacancies on the council are governed by section 2.06 of the city charter, and the date of vacancy in relation to the unexpired term dictates the process to fill the seat. So because there are essentially less than 2 years left on the remaining term of the Ward 2 seat, which would run until January 3rd, 2028, a special election is not required. However, the council has options. The council can appoint for the full remainder of the Ward 2 term until January 3rd, 2028, or schedule a special election. The date that the council would call the special election will dictate correspondingly when the special election is held. State law requires that it be held at specific dates during the year, and it's one of 5 days: the second Tuesday in February, April, May, or August, or the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. The council also by charter has 60 days to make this decision. Just want to be clear that the appointment for the remainder of the Ward 2 term would have to be done, the process done, and the seat filled by the deadline, which is March 6th. The other option, again, is to schedule a special election during that 60-day period before March 6th. So there are 3 options, and they're laid out on the slide before you here. Appoint for the remainder of the term for Ward 2 until January 3rd, 2028. And that appointment process must be complete by March 6th. For a May special election, the council would call for the special election by resolution at its next regular meeting on February 2nd. For an August special election, which would be could be held on the back of the primary ballot, which would result in some cost savings and an ease of the administrative burden for the city somewhat. For an August special, the council would call for that by resolution at its next the following regular meeting on February 23rd. And I'll just note that that February 23rd meeting is the last regular meeting of the council before the March 6th deadline to make this decision. So in terms of what you decide and scheduling, there might be the need for a special meeting in there if necessary. But these options were all laid out just with regard to the regular meeting schedule of the city council. So, one point of clarification too, there is no authority under charter to appoint an interim council member to fill the seat until a special. The authority with regard to appointment is for the full remainder of the term. So with that, I can stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. Any questions about this for Mr. Nelson? I do have a question, and sorry, Mr. Funk, I didn't think of this earlier. I think it is pertinent. If this information is available, maybe Ms. Kuzman has it, but when the last time we had a special election, I believe was the last time we were in this situation with Mayor Wiersum, do we know what the voter turnout for that special election was? And if I had thought of it earlier, I would have asked earlier. And maybe we can, I'm sure she can get her hands on it and we can continue the conversation. I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 5%, 5 or 7%, but that's just off the top of my head. Go ahead, Councilmember Foster Bolton.
Thank you, Mayor. So that was how many years ago?
8 years ago.
Okay, that was 8 years ago. But since then, we've had appointments, and there were how many? 2? Okay. So, and those are the most recent.
That's right.
Is that correct?
Yep. Mr. Funk.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. Ms. Kuzman's looking up the information on the last voter turnout when we had a special election. While she's doing that, if you have other comments or questions while she's doing that, the other thing that Ms. Kuzman can provide to you is some history as well. So to Council Foster Bolton's, I think, question or comment about just some history on how many previous similar situations have there been appointments and or special elections. We do have that information for you, and I'll look to Ms. Kuzman to share that along with the voter turnout information. If you give us just a few minutes, we'll get that to you.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we can kind of start our discussion, and then when we have that data, incorporate that into the conversation. Councilmember Coakley.
I guess my question, thank you, Mayor. I guess my question would be for the August 11th. I know me and City Manager talked about this earlier. If we decide to do a special election, would there be a cost to the city if we did it on the August 11th for special election?
Mr. Funk?
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Coakley. To the options that City Attorney Nelson outlined for you, just couple things to consider in there. So with the first option, with the May 14th election, staff estimates there would be a cost of that election in the neighborhood of $30,000 to $35,000. The advantage for your consideration is that it fills that seat sooner. However, to save taxpayer money, if you will, to save that $30,000 to $35,000, that would be the advantage of the August 11th special meeting. As Mr. Nilsson alluded to, that's also the statewide primary. And so there's an election occurring on that date, and so you'd simultaneously do those together. So in essence, on one side of the ballot, there'd be the statewide primaries. The other side of the ballot would be the special election for Ward 2. You would combine those two at the same time. Therefore, there would be that savings of $30,000 to $35,000. So that's the distinction. Now, of course, waiting till August 11th, a little more time passes with that vacancy.
Councilmember Coakley. One more comment. It's going to be an election anyway, because that's going to be the primary. So, we will already be having that election. So it's going to cost money either way. We're just adding another question onto the ballot. So, that's just my comment.
Looks like Ms. Kuzman has our answers for us. Ms. Kuzman, thanks.
Hi there. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I looked up a few of the historical election turnouts. It looks like the last one we had that was a special was fairly low at 2.7%. And then above that, there was 8% and almost 4.58%. So low. When we do special elections, they do tend to be low, especially if it's a ward and there's only 5 precincts in there. That is the downfall of doing a special election. Some history that I pulled together this afternoon. In February 14th of 2012, there was a special election that was done when Patty Acomb left. So that was a special election that was done. In 2014, there was an appointment when Tim Berkstead left. In 2018, there was a special election when Mike Happy was elected. And then in August, Rebecca Shack was appointed. So it does go back and forth. 2019, Susan Carter was appointed. And then there was a special election on the November ballot. So it kind of goes back and forth. There's not a trend of one or the other. It doesn't, necessarily matter to our election staff which way we go. In May, of course, there would be the cost. It's about $30,000 to $35,000. In August, as Mr. Funk said, there would be no cost because we're already doing an election. And then an appointment, there would be no cost as well. So just a little background there. Any other questions?
Thank you, Ms. Kuzman. Councilmember Coakley.
I'm not for sure if you said this, but you might have said in November there was a special election. And I want to say, did you say 2019?
In 2018, there was a special election, and then there was an appointment.
Okay.
So in 2018, we had both.
Okay, I have one more question. So have we had a special election where we ran the special election with the primary?
No, we have
before?
not.
Okay, so this is a little different, right?
Correct. This would be different. This would be on the back of the ballot.
Okay.
It would be ranked choice voting. So that makes it different in itself as well. I did talk to Hennepin County. They said that there is room on the ballot, on the back of the ballot. It is a different voting method. Okay. So we would have to educate our voters on that in the front, you have to vote by party. On the back, you're going to be voting ranked choice voting. I think our residents are very smart and they can do so. Just education, though, we would need to do.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, well then let's you know what I'm going to do? We don't have any cards, but I will offer, if there's anybody in the public that wants to comment on this, please feel free to come to the podium and do so. Not seeing anybody, so I'll bring it back to council and open it up for discussion. Councilmember Wilburn, go ahead.
Yeah. So I guess I'm leaning towards an appointment for a few reasons. One is if we do the May special election, that's not a lot of time for someone to decide they want to run and put together a campaign, as well as the additional cost to the taxpayers through the city, and it's waiting till May. If we wait till August, that's all the way to August before there's representation for the board too. So my preference would be to appoint. I know that doesn't give us a lot of time. We would have to get going fairly quickly on interviewing candidates and making a decision, but that's my preference. I guess the special election would be number 2, just again because of the cost. But I'm really not liking the idea of waiting until August to get someone in that seat.
You, Councilmember Wilburn. Councilmember Calvert.
Yeah, I concur with Councilmember Wilburn. I have several reasons for leaning towards appointment. I mean, even waiting till May. I mean, just think about what we've been talking about tonight and sort of the important issues before us as a society, on and above the fact that Ward 2 is the economic engine of our city. And to go for, 5 entire months, or let alone 8 months without representation there, which would then put the onus on us for us, quorum. It would be that's a long time to put that kind of pressure on the rest of us with everything that's going on. And I do think that, especially because it is Ward 2, which is our economic engine, there's so many decisions that end up affecting that ward. I lean towards that. I also agree, first of all, campaigning for a May election. I have absolutely no interest in waiting for an August election. It's just too far away. I don't really relish an expense of a May 14th election, and campaigning for that election in this weather just seems really unfair and kind of cruel and unusual, both for the candidates and the people that are opening their door to door knocking in this weather. And so I just think it's too important to wait to fill it. And I will just say that, having been on the council when we have appointed people, one of those people is now mayor and did a wonderful job on her first week on the job under really challenging circumstances. And the other council member was Susan Carter, who was one of the more eloquent people I've ever met in my entire life. So I know that we can find good quality candidates for an appointment, and I would just want to move with extreme alacrity to establish an interview process and dates for consideration.
Thank you, Councilmember Calvert. Councilmember Coakley.
Thank you, Mayor. I lean more toward the special election. And the reason why I lean more toward the special election, because I think about inclusiveness, making sure that we're inclusive. I feel like if we do appointed seat, I just think about who you know and how, I'm just going to speak from what I feel. I don't want us as council members saying, telling our friends and telling people who we, think should apply for the position and say, hey, I think you'll be a good fit for this seat. I know a lot of times when folks get these seats, especially when they're appointed, is about who you know. And so I just want to make sure that, if we even vote this way and go this way, that we are being more inclusive. And I feel like this will open it up for more people to be able to have that opportunity versus a few people who get selected to interview. If people want to run for this seat, then they run for this seat, and that opens it up to more folks. So that's just my opinion about it.
Thank you, Councilmember Coakley. Councilmember Romali.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually just have a question as somebody who hasn't gone through one of these before on council. Maybe it can be described, what the process of announcing and recruiting and, advertising for the Ward 2 seat would include. I'm not super afraid of not being inclusive at this point. I think we have a pretty inclusive council, but just understanding maybe we can do more to reach out to all of the communities in Ward 2, what we can be doing for that, to kind of hit both things. Where can we be inclusive and also work with speed, so that we don't have half a year or more without a council member in Ward 2. Is there any way to kind of split that baby? Staff.
Mr. Funk.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Romali. Good question. At this point, staff would look to use a similar process that we use for boards and commission appointments. And so that's the type of process that was used in previous appointments that Ms. Kuzman spoke of. We haven't mapped out exactly which dates, but what we would envision is that it would start with certainly a promotional and marketing. To your point, we need to get the word out. And so we'd work closely with our communications department. We'd want to advertise it, market it, push it out through all of our social media channels, all of our channels, even channels we don't use, to make sure that Ward 2 residents are aware that the city council is seeking an appointment process. We then solicit for likely 2 weeks. We do need a little time to at least get the word out there, get interest, and knowing that we have till March 6th, so it's going to be a tight turnaround window, and so we need to jump on it very quickly to get the promotions out there, get it marketed, solicit applications, again, kind of similar to how we do boards and commissions. We don't have a special meeting scheduled, but I would envision that we'll likely need a special meeting for you to interview then prospective candidates. We don't know at this point, if we're going to have one person or 20, and so we'll have a little fluidity to that process, knowing how many applications we get, and then typically in a boards and commission appointment, those will be forwarded to you. If we end up with 20 applications, for example, we want to narrow that down and likely recommend you interview perhaps 5 candidates somewhere in that neighborhood, typically the process. Do a special meeting to do that, and then hopefully make an appointment then by March 6th.
Thank you. And if we do go that route, I hope that we can include in some of our, kind of materials that we're using, what's involved in these positions. Understand, kind of what the expectations are so that they're ready to read a 700-page packet between Thursday and Monday, that they're willing to, do 40 meetings a year, including some that go till midnight, hopefully not as many anymore, and things like that, and just kind of making sure that applicants are fully aware. And like I said, I haven't been through this process before, but let's set people up with realistic expectations about what they're potentially signing on for if we're going to go through an interview process. Thanks.
Any other council members Councilmember Wilburn?
I just had a follow-up on that question is, so I realize the timing would be different, but the way you advertise for an appointment process, does that differ between the way you would advertise for a special election if this was going to be an elected, if we were going to have a special election, like the places you advertise, is there a difference?
Mr. Funk.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Wilburn. I would envision that they would be similar. Again, I'd want to connect with our communications team and understand what their communication channels would be, and if there's ways to reach other audiences outside of our normal communication channels, we'd want to do that just to make sure that everyone is well aware, or as aware as they can be, that there's this opportunity. And I would just, to Councilmember Ramali's point, yeah, we certainly would want to have some sort of position description is typically what we would do, so we'd want to highlight much of what you mentioned.
Councilmember Foster Bolton.
It seems to me, because it's you're just looking in one ward, so it would narrow the search and narrow the candidate opportunities. So seems like we could get the word out easier just because it's one. So I would vote for the appointment as well.
Thank you. I'll weigh in. I mean, obviously, this is really personal to me, and I feel very protective of the ward. As I thought about this, and what I will say honestly, looking at the metrics and looking at when I've run in the past, Ward 2 turnout is also typically the lowest turnout in the city, which I think we probably keep that in mind as well. I think there's just a lot of reasons for that, and I won't get into it, but to me, I think about 2 things that are happening. One, we're master planning Big Willow Park, one of our major parks in the community that has a lot of passion. I think that it is should involve a lot of council member conversations, I suspect. And Mr. Kumka's nodding his head. And the other thing is, we have a fairly big project that we are going to be considering in Ward 2 as well, that's coming up in the Omegon space. And And that is also an important project for the city. And so for me, as quickly as we can get somebody into that seat, the better. The other thing is not only, and I'm up for it, but what will happen is Councilmember Calvert, myself, and Councilmember Wilburn will kind of carry the torch for Ward 2, I think, in the meantime, which is fine, but it's not super fair to those residents. But I also think there's a lot of pressure on, we all deserve to take vacations, and we are going to get sick sometimes. And so we're down a one council member on vacation or with a family emergency, and now we're down to 5 making big decisions. So it's important to me that we get that seat filled as quickly as possible, and I don't have a strong opinion between, obviously we can do it quicker with appointment, but if we're going to run a special election, I would say that would need to be that May 14th date, because I think having a seat open for 8 months isn't fair to that part of the community. So those are my comments just coming from that ward, and I think we can kind of counting heads, but I think there are a few people that haven't really made their opinion clear, so maybe we'll go one more go round on the discussion here. Councilmember Calvert?
I am all in for an appointment for all the reasons that people just named, including what you just talked about, and that's really why I was saying that, first of all, it's the economic engine. There are huge things coming that we have to consider that are in Ward 2, and it just isn't fair to the ward not to have representation. Of course, people can call us, and the at-large folks will take the calls and do our best to represent, but it really is leaving a hole. I get really worried about quorum, and I would say about inclusion, I mean, honestly, we can reach out to people that we know. And the other thing that I will say, and some of my council members may disagree, we have wonderful board members and commissioners that live in Ward 2 that actually do understand a little bit about what the job is. And there is something to be said about having board and commission experience. And I think that there are people that might consider running, and I think they'd have a lot to contribute to city council if they were willing to consider it. And I'm a person that believes in experience in grooming. I think there have been drawbacks in the past from people getting on the council who didn't really understand our form of government and so on and so forth, but I do think there are other people that got on the council with no city experience that have done a wonderful job. And but I do think there's something to be said for people that have already served the city, and I would be encouraging those folks to consider it, and I think that we all should make sure that we are reaching out to people to be inclusive and make sure that we have really excellent representation for Ward 2.
Anybody else want to weigh in? Otherwise, I think we need to get to some kind of consensus here. Councilmember Rameli.
Thank you, Mayor. I really appreciated the comments from other council members. It really helped, kind of clarify things for me, because I was a little bit on the fence. But having heard everybody's, kind of comments, I tend to agree that having an appointment process that moves as quickly as possible would probably benefit the ward and the overall city more than waiting for a special election even until May.
We know where you stand, okay?
Still favor appointment.
Okay. And so it looks like does staff have what they need? It looks like we've coalesced around establishing an appointment process, and I'll weigh in one other thing, just from having been a part of an appointment process. one of two people up here who has. You know, we graded these and we had a very robust methodology for grading. And, you know, it is a function of not like boards and commissions where the mayor could theoretically pick. I mean, this has to be the council is going to pick, and that grading process gives us a lot of insight. So there's not, you know, there's no one individual who has all the authority or subjectivity to make a decision and say override the rest of the council. So I just want to assure everybody of that. Mr. Funk, is there anything else that we need to do at this point?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. No, I think you've given us direction, and as staff at this point, we'll proceed with an appointment process. In speaking with Mr. Wittenberg here in the last few minutes, we're able to get this in the February memo, so that'll be extremely helpful because that reaches every doorstep in Minnetonka, and then we'll go through our other communication channels. So we'll start proceeding in that manner. Council, just know that at some point, as we get further defined in when we could do interviews, we'll look to reach out to you on scheduling a special meeting to do those.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Funk. All right, thank you, Council. I know that's such a tricky one, and we want to be sensitive and also move quickly. All right, item 14C, which is a resolution supporting the authority to impose a local sales tax to fund capital improvements. And Mr. Funk, you're going to start with this one?
I am. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Good evening again. I'm getting the technology here. Oops. Getting the correct keyboard here. Thank you. Here we go. Well, Mayor and Council, I'll present tonight's information regarding a resolution regarding the authority to impose a local sales tax to fund capital improvements. Just with me, I have a number of staff members in our audience, everyone that's been part of our team here as we've worked with you and discussed this at the council study session back on December 22nd, where staff presented preliminary information regarding the potential use of a local sales tax as a funding mechanism for several major capital investments. At the December 22nd study session, the council expressed interest in bringing forward a formal resolution for your consideration. And before I go through the slides, I do want to reiterate, or at least iterate, a couple things. One is, the purpose of this agenda item is to support a long-term strategic conversation about Minnetonka's approach to managing our aging infrastructure, our future assets and facilities, both on a regional and local importance. This item represents an exercise in long-range planning, recognizing that decisions made over time to these public facilities and infrastructure will have meaningful and lasting impacts in the Minnetonka community, the region, and Minnetonka's overall financial sustainability. I know we've talked about that study session, but I think for the audience here tonight, or for those that may be listening, it's really important that we stress that this is a long-term planning exercise. We recognize as staff, and I know council, you recognize that we do have some aging infrastructure and significant costs related to this infrastructure. So this is really taking a look at what are those scenarios, how do we fund those, and what is the best strategy moving forward to fund those. The other thing I also want to stress, and I'll probably say this a couple times tonight, is that this agenda item and the motion, or excuse me, the action being requested of you this evening does not obligate the city to impose a sales tax or to proceed with any individual project. Rather, again, the adoption of this resolution would authorize staff to seek legislative approval to allow Minnetonka the option to pursue a sales tax subsequent to further city council action, because there are a number of landing off spots, if you will, and I'll touch on those here in a few minutes. And more importantly, it would take voter approval through a local referendum. And again, I'll touch base on what those steps look like. Moving forward, so the staff recommendation is to motion to adopt one of two resolutions, and I'll walk through those resolutions here in the coming minutes. Those resolutions support authority to impose a local sales tax of 0.5% to fund specific capital improvements of regional significance and to authorize the issuance of sales tax supported bonds. So with those two resolutions that are in your council packet and for your presentation, and again, I'll have a slide that highlights these further in a few moments, is the same resolution. So again, there's two resolutions. They are the same verbiage, the same language, except for as it relates to one of the 5 projects going to be noted, and that's related to the marsh. Option A, or resolution option A, includes a full renovation scope for the Marsh Health and Wellness Center. A total project cost for all 5 projects, that would be $116 million. Rounding. And then resolution option B includes a modified scope of improvements for the marsh with the total estimated project cost of $97.6 million. Again, I'll walk through those differences here in the coming slides. Again, just highlighting those two resolutions, and the distinction of those resolutions are regarding the marsh. 4 votes are needed for approval of tonight's recommendation on those resolutions. A little bit about our strategic plan. As you know, with all of our agenda items, we like to relate that back to our strategic plan. It's part of our guiding document here at the city. One of our pillars in our strategic plan is financial strength. More importantly, under financial strength, we have a desired outcome. And this is something, Council, we've talked about the last few years in our strategic plan, and that is looking at other sources of revenue for capital improvement projects. Certainly, we have our capital improvement plan and our capital improvement program. We levy roughly $10 million a year towards capital improvement projects. And what we have discussed as a city is, are there other revenue sources, other revenue options that can ease the burden of property taxes as it relates to funding for these capital expenditures? So this does align with what we've talked about as a desired outcome. A little bit about financial consideration. As of today, no, yes, there is a financial consideration, but not directly applicable at this time. Because again, as I just noted, we're not looking at, or you're not looking as a council, we're not looking as staff in this joint conversation of proceeding with a sales tax today. Again, it's the authorization to do so. This is not project initiation today. And so really what this resolutions do in front of you is contemplate the use of a 0.5 cent sales tax over a period of up to 30 years to fund voter-approved projects. And again, I'll kind of walk through that in more detail here in a few minutes. I also want to note that Mr. Nelson will also answer questions here at the end, really as it relates to the 30 years projection. In our conversations as staff with our financial advisors, they are a piece of that at Ehlers and Associate, our financial advisors. And so the sales tax, in essence, would cover any principal and interest payments for bond issuance, up to, as I noted in that previous slide, depending on what option of the resolution you chose, up to that $116 million. Staff estimates that in either scenario, sales tax revenues would be sufficient to support the issuance of bonds and debt. And again, I'll get into that here in a little bit. And again, I'm going to stress that with the adoption of either of those resolutions does not commit the city to the sales tax, issuing bonds, advancing any project without further city council action and voter approval. As I'll highlight in the next slide, the timeline really is dictating tonight's action. And I think it's most important, as stated in that last bullet point on this slide, instead the resolutions preserve flexibility while allowing the city to seek legislative authority and continue community engagement around infrastructure projects and funding strategies. A little bit about the timeline. Again, you have 2 options tonight for the resolution. Really what's driving that is, and I'll come back to number 1 states here, resolutions adopted January 12th. Sorry for the typo there, 2026. What's driving that is then under number 2, which is this resolution will need to be submitted to the state legislative tax committees, both in the Senate Tax Committee and House Tax Committee by January 31st of this year. And that's, so again, those resolutions need to go to those tax committees, and that's, those tax committees then not champion this resolution, but they will hold hearings regarding this ask. The legislature convenes here in the coming weeks. The legislature is scheduled to end, short of a special session, on May 18th. And so we would anticipate that bringing this resolution to the legislature will debate that resolution. the legislature then would need to give the city authority to proceed. And if the city is to gain that authority from the state legislature, they would authorize likely on a tax bill. It's usually included in the omnibus tax bill every year. That tends to get voted on the last day of session, again, unless it goes into special session. We would anticipate May 18th of that occurring. If the legislature does support Minnetonka's sales tax authority for a sales tax, we then, or you would as a council, need to accept that by special law. Likely, it could happen that second meeting in May. If there's a special session, it'd be at the completion of that tax bill. That's why we note May or June, perhaps, of 2026 is when the council would take that action. The next step in that process then would go to the voters. And so a sales tax question is a voter option. The community would ultimately decide on a sales tax. Just noted here on the slide is that if we get to this step into the process, a voter referendum would need to occur within 2 years of authority. So the fastest that a referendum could go to the public would be November of 2026. The latest that the city could bring it to the voters would be November of 2027. That's the 2-year window. If the voters say yes to those sales tax asks, then the last step in the process is the council would need to adopt an ordinance and tax implication. So that's the steps. I do want to note on the bottom of this slide, it states that public engagement would occur after step 4 and before step 5. So again, this action tonight is to really preserving the city's right. If the state legislature allows for this provision, then it would really initiate public engagement. And it would be in May, June of this year, if the council were to accept that special law, as I noted. It's really between step 4 and when you have the referendum, that's when we would further engage the public regarding this matter. A little bit about the background. Again, council, you've seen this before, so I know it's a little repetitive for you. Previously, the city worked with the University of Minnesota Extension for a report. They did a robust report. You have seen that, and for those that are new to this topic, the estimated annual collection on a half-cent sales tax is around $6 million per year. Again, that sales tax would be on goods that people normally would pay sales tax today. Items that are sales tax exempt, like groceries and clothing, would be exempt from a half-cent sales tax. So again, it applies to items that you would purchase today that someone would pay sales tax on. In that University Extension report, one of the calculations they do is they analyze if a sales tax were to be implemented, where would that sales tax come from? And so in that report, in their analysis, 54% of the sales tax would be collected from residents outside of the city of Minnetonka. They have their methodology and how they track sales data. It's through credit card data that they're able to capture, and so they have a pretty good sense that with sales tax, just given the volume of shopping that happens in Minnetonka from residents outside the city, sales tax would be collected again from 54% non-residents to 56% resident sales. Based on 2021 estimates, and I know this goes back a few years, but based on 2021 estimates, and if a sales tax were implemented at that half cent, each Minnetonka resident would pay on average $41 additionally per year in that sales tax. Why is that important? Because we want to do some calculations on if you did a sales tax, or if short of a sales tax and the city were to rely strictly on bonding and putting a bond issuance on the taxpayers, the property taxes, what are those differences? And so what this tries to illustrate is who would pay, what are the differences between a property tax and a sales tax? On the left-hand side of the slide, it really tries to stress that if the city were to rely on property taxes, and we've done some property tax analysis, for these projects that I'm about to highlight, which would be around $75 million in project debt, we would use you would need $5 million a year to cover principal and interest payments on that debt. When we calculate principal and interest payments on that debt issuance, it's anticipated that the city, and we as a city, you as a council, will need to eventually look at raising a tax levy in today's dollars around 9%. And so that would be a property tax increase needed of 9%. And looking at today's average valued home prices, what that would mean to an average valued home is about $180 a year, additional property tax to pay for these improvements through the property tax levy. Now, going back to the desired outcome in our strategic plan of looking at other alternative revenue sources, if we were to look at the sales tax option and why there's appeal to a sales tax option, again, it's not placed on property taxes, it's based on purchases. The sales tax, again, as I just noted in that previous slide, would be estimated to be about $41 a resident. Per the 2023 U.S. Census, Minnetonka has about 2.27 persons per household, or you'd estimate for a typical household in Minnetonka about $93 a year paid in additional sales taxes. So that's part of the conversation when we get into further public engagement on the strategies on how to fund these improvements. Is it using the property tax or looking at the sales tax? And that's a conversation you as a council will need to have and the best mechanism in funding these improvements. A little bit about the background. So in the resolution, we talk about 5 potential projects. These projects do have to have regional significance. I'll go through those in the coming slides. The first 2 noted there are related to fire stations. So the rebuilding of fire station number 2, that's located on Hopkins Crossroad with an estimated cost of $13 million. The second item is fire station number 3 on Roland Road. That's at $17.6 million. In essence, they're pretty close in terms of square footage and price of construction. The difference is in land acquisition. With Fire Station 3, we know we can't build on that existing site, and we're going to have to look at an alternative site, so we do factor in additional dollars for land acquisition. So that's really the distinguishing factor between those two. The second is the completion of the high priority trail segments identified in the trail implementation plan, or in the trail improvement plan. That's estimated at $34 million. Renovation or improvement of the Marsh Health and Wellness Center, again, depending on which option is in the resolution that we discuss or you discuss as a council, either 35 or 16.5 million. And again, I'll talk about those distinguishing factors here in a few minutes. And then last is development of a community level park and open space in the Opus area, estimated at 16.5 million. So those are the 5 improvements that are noted in the resolution. Also in the resolution, we highlight how it ties into regional significance. And I'll state those here in those coming slides. So first thing, again, fire station number 2, located at Hopkins Crossroad. The regional significance piece of it is that it serves the Ridgedale district, approximately 650 businesses. There are approximately 10,000 people in this area that travel inside Minnetonka, live elsewhere, and come to the city. If you look at the corridors of both 394 and 494, that fire station serves approximately 200,000 commuter vehicles per day. Also out of Fire Station 2, the City of Minnetonka provides mutual aid to 5 communities through mutual aid agreements. So hopefully you get a sense of the regional significance of Fire Station 2. It's serving more than just Minnetonka residents. Fire Station 3, again, located on Roland Road. This would serve the Opus area. Over 4 million square feet of commercial property in that area, employing in this area of the community another 10,000 people. In 2027, we anticipate the opening of, obviously, the Southwest Light Rail Station, the Green Line Extension. We anticipate, again, ridership that is coming to Minnetonka to live and work in this area. As noted on the next bullet point, we do have response to Highway 169 and 62 Crosstown with over 90,000 commuters daily. And also out of Fire Station 3, we provide mutual aid to several communities through mutual aid agreements. Again, I talked about site location, and so we need to look at a different site location. Estimated project costs are $17.6 million. Again, noted $2 million for potential property acquisition. With the Marsh, again, regionally, an asset regionally serves residents and visitors from across the region. Mr. O'Day, to his credit, as you know, council, when the city took over the marsh, we had 1,000 members. That's now up to 8,000 members. Approximately half of our membership are non-residents from nearly 100 cities across the metro. We have event and meeting space rentals serving thousands of residents, non-residents, and nonprofit organizations and local and regional businesses. And we have some special unique features that you're aware of at the Marsh that are noted here that you can't find anywhere else. One of 2 therapy pools in the metro. So that's part of why people from 100 different cities come here, is for our therapy pools. And then a lot of the items noted in terms of aquatic body work, warm water therapy classes, adaptive swim lessons. So again, it becomes a regional draw. A little bit about then the Marsh in terms of 2 different options. The first is what we're calling the low cost option. That's $16.5 million. That is really deferred maintenance and an interior refresh. As noted there, part of that deferred maintenance is regarding pool maintenance, the exterior facade, roof and deck repairs. Part of the internal refresh is new painting, ceilings, lighting, flooring, millwork, and audio-video technology, and then certainly maintaining the current programming. This option also does take into consideration the initial purchase of the Marsh, as well as the $2 million in the initial 2-year operation costs. Looking at the middle cost option of $35 million, that's everything I just explained, and then includes a more robust renovation and accessibility upgrades. There's renovation to the conference areas that create connections to the spa and improve rental spaces. There's expanding the spa and retail, creating outdoor spa areas, create member and non-member areas at higher membership price levels, redoing and reworking our office and dining areas, the cafe areas, also the renovation of the locker rooms for code compliance and our inclusivity and accessibility. I went through that rather quickly, and Mr. O'Day is here to answer more questions regarding the scope of those 2 options. Regarding the trails, the trail ask is around $35 million. This would complete our high priority trails identified in the trail improvement plan. This will create a fully connected multimodal transportation system that serves residents, employees, and visitors across the region. This will connect neighborhoods, schools, parks, and employment centers. And this is the critical last mile connections. And Council, I know you've talked about that. We've talked about critical last mile connections to the regional infrastructure, including the Lake Minnetonka Regional Trail and the Minnetonka River Bluffs Regional Trail. There's also then the 3rd trail that's coming into Minnetonka next year, and that is connecting the Eagle Lake and Maple Grove to Bryant Lake and Eden Prairie connection. It's unusual that it's the same trail, but they're calling it 2 different names, and depending on what section of the trail is, but basically it's that major north-south artery between Eden Prairie and Eagle Lake. So I'll add a 3rd regional trail in the city. In combination, it's based on data that we've received, proving to use millions of users annually. So there are people from outside of our city, around our region, that are using these regional trails, our own residents using these regional trails. So the ask is to really make sure we have those connections that really integrate our entire system. And then last is the Opus Public Space, where we're going to create a community level park and open space for visitors, employees, and residents. Council, you had a study session last year, or in the fall of last year, where staff described this process. We're in the middle of this process currently. Mr. Kumka and our team here are working through engagement on that. We are again estimating around $15 million needed for this facility. That cost is higher than that, but we feel that with the sales tax would pay roughly half of that potential park. Other revenue sources to complete the Opus Park area would include park dedication fees and other revenue sources within our CIP. A little bit of the estimated timeline. And this really kind of is, there's a lot of stuff listed here, a lot of dates listed here. Really the bottom line in showing you this illustration is to really point out at which time a project could come to fruition. And so if we were to start today with the resolution and we go through the steps that I identified in an earlier slide, really what this illustrates that on the right-hand side of this is The soonest that we would see any sort of project would be mid-year 2029. So this is almost a 3-year type process in the making. Again, a little bit about the resolutions. On the left-hand side is we have option A, which is the full marsh renovation. As highlighted there, the estimated capital cost of the projects is $116.1 million. Again, that takes into consideration the full renovation that I went through at $35 million. On the right-hand side of that is option B, and it just really distinguishes the two differences in those resolutions. The estimated cost of the projects in resolution option B is $97.6 million. The reason it's less is because it takes into consideration the renovation of the marsh at that $16.5 million. Just to give you a flavor for other jurisdictions with a 1/2 cent sales tax in the West Metro, as staff, we didn't look at all of the metro cities. I know there's cities outside of the metro across greater Minnesota that have sales taxes. Other counties do as well. But in terms of just in our area, the city of Bloomington, city of Chanhassen, Edina, Excelsior, Golden Valley, and I'll pause at Golden Valley, it's asterisk because they have one is noted on the right-hand side of this. Oops, that is incorrectly noted. It's 1.25%. So Golden Valley is a real outlier in sales tax. It's 1.25%. City of Maple Grove just initiated this a couple years ago. Minneapolis, Richfield, and then Rogers. Rogers is a 0.25 cent sales tax, so a little slightly less than the other cities. On the right-hand side of that, again, just wanted to point out Hennepin County, for example, has their own sales tax. In total, 1.65% for sales tax. That's broken down by the stadium tax, county transit, Metro Housing Authority, Metro Area Housing, and then the Metro Area Transportation. The state of Minnesota, for your benefit, is currently at 6.875%. When you add in Hennepin County with the state, that for Minnetonka residents today, that's 8.525%. And with the proposed rate of 0.5%, that would, for Minnetonka residents, be 9.025%. Again, this is a staff recommendation. We have 2 resolutions in your packet for your consideration. Again, 4 votes are needed. And then I will pause there for questions from the council. Again, we have staff here that can answer any questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Funk. Council, questions? Any questions? Councilmember Wilburn.
Just to clarify, so if we pass this and it's presented to the legislature, it's presented as like all of the regional significant projects that you listed here. It's just we're deciding on the marsh because there's the 2 different options for the marsh, and so two different amounts. Is that correct?
Mr. Funk.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Wilburn. That is correct. And so with those resolutions, as I know, there are the 2 options. And so if the council gravitates towards one option, you would approve that this evening. That's the resolution that we would submit to the legislature. And in part of the legislature, again, it's about regional significance. And so if you have questions on regional significance, please ask those. I know we've talked about them in our study session. It's important that we show regional significance, and I think the language that you see in the resolution is robust in that nature. That's why those resolutions are over 2 pages, because we're highlighting 5 potential projects with the regional significance pointed out with those projects, and that's the lobbying that we would need to do to the legislature to seek their approval. As you know, and I again want to reiterate that what tonight's action is doing is preserving that right to ask the legislature. It's preserving the right to bring this to the voters at some point, because the voters ultimately decide on a sales tax. In those cities that I just noted, all of those cities had a referendum ask to their voters at a November election. And to give you a sense of, for Minnetonka, they are independently listed on the referendum. Tonight isn't about the referendum language. That's we're getting ourselves way almost over our ski tips in that regard. And referendum language, because the referendum language would be different than what's noted in the resolution. The purpose of the resolution is for the legislature. If we get to that point of a referendum, this would come back to you, and then we would work on what referendum language would look like. The voters then, it's not an all or nothing. It would be 5 questions to the voters, and then the voters could say yes to one of those, they could say yes to 5 of them, or none to all of them. And so that's where that public engagement piece comes in later on.
Thank you, Mr. Funk. Any other questions for Mr. Funk? I just want to kind of confirm something we talked about earlier, which is, you know, talking about this distinction between option A or option B. It's kind of like the preliminary levy, right? If we set it at a, you know, if we ask for the remodel amount on the marsh, we could make a decision at certain steps later to reduce that amount and scale back the project if we decided to do that. Is that right?
Mayor Shack, that is correct. Not to be repetitive, but you're absolutely correct that in this resolution, I'll use the word preserves again. It preserves the city's ability to maximize the opportunity. At any point, the council can reduce that ask as it would be placed on a ballot. So if we got to that point of asking for sales tax dollars for the marsh, yes, the council still could reshape that ask. It just couldn't be greater than the ask in the resolution.
Thank you. Councilmember Rameli.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually do have a question kind of riffing off of that. Given those 2 different amounts, would there be any advantage or disadvantage in staff's view in terms of one or the other? I know it's ultimately up to us, and I like the idea that, you know, kind of preserving that ability to go down and go high on that. You know, it's kind of like doing a home equity loan or something like that, really, when you're thinking about it. So I'd rather, you know, have the option and not use it than decide we need it and then not have it. But is there a disadvantage in terms of, you know, our working with our electeds and working with the tax committee and so forth in terms of taking that route?
Mr. Funk.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Rameli. If I could, I'm going to ask Mr. O'Day to come forward. I think he's back there. He is. Thank you, Mr. O'Day. You know, if this is going to get your question, if not, let me know. I think part of these renovations also speak to the future profitability of the marsh. Absolutely. And so some of the investments that are being made in option B, if you will, is would aid in the future operations of the marsh. I think Mr. O'Day would be best to speak to that.
Okay,
thank you.
Good
Mr.
evening,
O'Day.
Mayor and
Thank
council
you.
members. And as Mike said, yeah, the 2 differences really with option A and B, the difference is a major construction. I think with the higher cost option, we have more flexibility. We will be able to get more program spaces, different program spaces that in turn would allow for additional revenue. So yes, there is some benefit. These are very big numbers. I understand that, but with the $35 million option, we would get some new programming spaces, and I think that's one of the biggest pieces of it.
Thank you, Mr. O'Day. All right, council, any more questions? Councilmember Calvert.
Oh, yeah, I just, one more quick question as a follow-up and as a comparison. Plymouth recently kind of constructed a new community center, city center, and I remember being there. It's a beautiful new space. We haven't had any new spaces for decades. And can you remind me what the price tag, I know they got a great deal because it was during COVID, but can you remind me what the price tag was for that? I think it was 80 million, I believe. I just was wondering if I was remembering correctly.
Mr. Funk?
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Rameli. That's a good question. I don't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, I think it was in that ballpark
Right.
of 80 million. Correct. And I should note that on that slide that showed cities with current sales taxes, the city of Plymouth is having the same conversation tomorrow night on a sales tax as well. And so for what that's worth, our neighboring city is also discussing the same. I don't recall, do you know, Mr. Nelson, what the sales tax for Plymouth would be going for?
I do.
No.
Madam
Mr.
Mayor,
Nelson.
council members, it looks like it's going for the Plymouth Ice Center renovation and expansion, the Plymouth Community Center Fieldhouse expansion. So I don't know if that's the new facility or not. I haven't been up in Plymouth in a while. And then a Four Seasons Regional Sports Complex for construction of outdoor recreational amenities and associated improvements. So looks like about $130 million or so is what they're looking at requesting from the legislature.
Thank you. And can I ask one more question?
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I appreciate the indulgence. Just how many other cities are pursuing local option that we know of?
Mr. Funk?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Rameli. Don't have a exact number. What we're hearing outside of the city of Plymouth is about 20 other jurisdictions.
Thank you.
Calvert?
I don't really have any questions because we have studied this issue over time more than once, but I just really appreciate the due diligence, and I know that we have some physical hawks in the audience right now, and there are a handful of people in the community that just don't like the idea of us having the marsh, and I will say that, I'm going to say this one more time, we bought the marsh for $4.6 million. I think it's 6.7 acres of land along the creek. There had been a long-standing policy in the city to try to acquire land by the creek to protect the creek. It accomplished that. We had done a space and facilities recreation and space study that indicated that we were drastically underpooled. We did not have enough lap time. We did not have enough pool space for swimming lessons. We got not one pool, but two pools. A new pool, a single pool, would have cost years ago, when the original study was done, $25 million. And we got a whole building with two pools, hot tubs, saunas, exercise equipment, exercise rooms, meeting spaces, office space that we also needed to find, so it solved an office space problem. It has a restaurant. It has businesses that local vendors occupy there. And so it actually solved many, many of our needs for pennies on the dollar. And in order to get a maximum return on investment, we need to invest in that facility a little bit, and we would have had to invest in this building and other buildings, as you can see, anyway. And so in hearing our discussion about whether to go low or go high, and sort of viewing this as sort of the preliminary ask, if we are moving on to comments.
Thank you, and I apologize. Councilmember Rameli must have ventriloquist dummied her hand up and made it look like you had a question.
Yeah.
We have one person in the audience who's indicated they want to speak. So
okay,
let's do that first, and then we'll move on to discussion. I appreciate it. So I have a card here. This is not technically a public hearing, but we are going to take comment. Again, we'll limit the comments to 3 minutes. But I have Nancy Bender-Kellner here. Come on up, Nancy.
Hi, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm a resident of Minnetonka, and I gave my address to the staff member. I provided similar comments to the mayor and the council members, but I'd like those here and those listening to hear them as well. I'm a small business owner in Minnetonka, owner of a small commercial building for my business in Minnetonka, and my husband and I are 35-plus year Minnetonka homeowners. We're very much against Minnetonka's imposing any sales tax. Key reasons: it puts Minnetonka businesses at a competitive disadvantage as it increases the cost of goods and services provided. It imposes an additional burden on Minnetonka businesses to collect and remit the sales tax. There's so many stresses and duties placed on businesses today. This only makes it more difficult to operate a business in Minnetonka. This potentially adversely impacts the value of commercial, perhaps residential real estate in Minnetonka. If a potential business owner can purchase a property elsewhere, they might choose to do that. It increases the residents' cost of living. In addition to the above, some of the arguments being put forth in support of a sales tax are not intellectually honest. For example, phrasing the need for a sales tax in order to fund specific capital improvements of regional significance is, in my humble opinion, ridiculous when the primary main capital improvement being discussed is the marsh. I understand for some of you the marsh is very important. In my opinion, if Minnetonka's ownership of the marsh has become so economically burdensome, I realize it was purchased a great deal at the beginning, but now we're talking about putting $64 million into it, then I think it should be sold to a private party. There's really no requirement that our city own a health club, no need to expand the spa at the marsh so it can have a sand floor, as is being proposed. The council was rightfully concerned about a $35,000 charge for a special election, and now we're talking about $35 million. I also think the argument that imposing a sales tax will reduce the real estate tax burden is disingenuous. There's no guarantee of that, particularly if the city takes on additional unnecessary financial obligations. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for hanging in there, Ms. Bender-Kilmer. All right, I will, as on the previous items, just give one more opportunity if anybody in the audience would like to speak as we transition in this new model of taking comments. Come on up and please state your name and address for the record.
Madam Mayor and Council, I'm Karen Matson. I live at 17380 Hampton Court. I'm a 33-year resident. I'm an active member of the Marsh. I appreciate the fire department saving my home, and I know that capital improvements are important. I also appreciate that this is a process meeting, really. But I caution you about the numbers that you've had to put out on behalf of the process, because it looks like there's not enough focus on managing critical expenses. And I agree with Ms. Bender about, as a Marsh user, the investment that you've outlined at the top level looks excessive. I swim almost every day there. The pools do need to fix. There's a lot of other things that need to be done to that building. It is a great asset, but I caution you about the amount that you are seeking for all these different proposals if you are going to try to convince people to vote for a sales tax. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Matson. Excuse me, anybody else? All right, I'll bring it back to council now for comments or discussion. We had quite a bit of discussion on this in December at our study session, but this is our opportunity to kind of move this along to the next step if that's our desire. Councilmember Calvert.
I guess I'll kick it off. So thank you very much for coming, making your comments, and taking the time to write us with them. And sometimes you wonder if you're screaming into the wind, because I spent some time at several meetings explaining once again that we got numerous very important community needs met for pennies on the dollar. And we have deferred some of the most important capital improvements in this city because we are mindful of our levy. And one of the things that I wanted to talk a little bit about that wasn't really covered in the discussion so far tonight and the explanations is that, or it wasn't covered deeply, is that we had a consultant. They did a survey of businesses, and the business community was actually, the majority of businesses surveyed were in favor, which actually I found very interesting and informative. So I think, you know, if we move forward, and I'm inclined to move forward, and I actually am inclined to give us the latitude to start high and work our way down, sharpening our pencils as we go. I just think because this will require such a robust process, which would include a lot of community engagement, and ultimately the voters' voice would be heard on this matter. I don't see the harm in proceeding because people will engage on this issue. People will have very strong opinions on it, and ultimately it is the voters who will decide. And so I want to give the voters that option because there are a lot of people that want the improvements in the marsh. There are a lot of people that really want to see the improvements at our fire stations because we are moving from paid on call to a full-time fire staff because public safety is such a critical part of what the city provides. And so as the wife of a retired firefighter and emergency manager, I will say once again, I am unapologetic for our investment in public safety, and these improvements to our fire stations will be no exception. And I actually, because I believe in science and studies, I believe what our consultant and the studies show in terms of what it would cost residents for our residents for sales tax versus a levy increase. And I don't look at this as a blank check. I look at this the same as I would, you know, if we were raising the levy, that I want to be very mindful of, you know, what we're investing in and how we are investing it. But I want to give us the maximum latitude and bring it to the voters. So I'm inclined to do option A, simply because it gives us the most options for our voters to weigh in on.
Thank you, Councilmember Calvert. Does anybody have a different perspective or anything they want to add? Councilmember Coakley.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I can say originally I was thinking option B, but after listening to what other council member had stated, I start to think about these options are ultimately, if it get approved, it's going to go to the voters. And at that time, if it goes to the voters, if we don't need all the money or we decide to do something different, we can always go down. But to miss the opportunity to make sure that we have the most that we can have, I think would be a disservice to our city. And so I'm also going to go with option A because I think it makes more sense to not to be able to present that to the voters. So
thank you, Councilmember Coakley. Councilmember Romali.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have a different opinion. I just wanted to confirm my memory of some additional context. Two things that I recall, because we have spoken and discussed this extensively in study sessions and seen lots of materials about it, which I don't have at my fingertips. But one of the things I do recall is that there was a study done for the U of M study that showed that the impact on the economic impact on our businesses showed, I believe, that it would be negligible, that it wouldn't impact sales, that it wouldn't impact that. So I wanted to confirm that's my recollection. So hopefully that, kind of can, and the fact that we had so many people, so many businesses actually be supportive in our survey of kind of imposing this local option tax gives me comfort, and hopefully maybe helps other businesses understand it as well. And then probably the second piece of context here that we've also been talking about at the same time in parallel as we're talking about these discussions, which some much needed, aside from the marsh, infrastructure improvements that have to be done. We're in parallel also talking about long-term infrastructure improvements that we need. We have an older city, and a lot of our water and sewer infrastructure is at the end of its life. And so we're looking at some major investments that are going to have to be made, both in the midterm and the long term over the next 50 years, but even in the next 20. And so, we have to be creative and look for ways to be able to finance that, because that amount is going to be almost as much as this amount. So we have to be thinking and being very mindful of, as a council, and being very responsible and thinking that infrastructure, we're going to be looking at bonding and long-term levies and paying that through levies long-term. This is the same thing where we're going to have to be looking at these things that are going to be needs for our community in the future, regardless, again, what you think of the marsh. Some of these other things are definitely needs, not, debatable wants. So I think, given that context, which we all have to be mindful of in terms of our fiduciary responsibilities and our stewarding our public finances, I think it's the responsible thing to move forward and explore this opportunity again, with the caveat that at the end of the day, voters will have the final say on this.
Thank you, Councilmember Romali. There was a question buried in there, Mr. Funk. That was the impact based on the U of M study on the businesses.
Yeah, Mayor Shack, Councilmember Romali. In that study, there did reference the impact of a city having a sales tax compared to another city having a sales tax, and what that did to sales tax revenue generation, which would obviously be sales at one of those locations. And the study indicated that there wasn't a definite line there, that you can tell that having the sales tax in place decreased the amount of sales generated from that city. Granted, a lot of those, in the study, a lot of the cities were outstate areas, and so they're more regional type of impacts. In the metro area, it's a lot easier to maneuver to another city within the metro area compared to driving, an hour or more to another location. But you still have to make that decision as well, too, to make that move and drive someplace else on that end of it. And they're not necessarily seeing that in the data. So.
All right, thank you. Thank you for that confirmation. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. All right, Councilmember Foster Bolton.
No, I just wanted to say to Ms. Bender-Kellner, I know you didn't want to be here tonight, and I understand how strongly you feel about it. And I think we could fill the room with the people that feel strongly about renovations for the marsh, being on the doors, going into places and speaking. People beg for us to keep the marsh and to improve.
Thank you. Well, I will make just a couple brief comments, and I think we're probably at a point where we could make a motion. The piece on this, I acknowledge. I think that's the most cumbersome for me is the marsh piece. I think the fire stations and the trail segments really are clear cut in my mind, and there's just no question there. The trail piece of this is probably the number one ask that I get, whether it's an email or via door knocking or whatever, is where is this? Can't we get this piece of trail finished and kind of finalize this connection in the city? So I think we are at a point, this is a process step, And so I agree, I'm not bought in 100% on option A in the sense that that is where we will land, but I do think we need to have that opportunity. I also think that this is an opportunity for our residents to really weigh in on what they prioritize. I understanding now that this is going to be, 5 different questions makes it almost easier for me to move it forward because people can really vote based on what they prioritize as well. So I feel pretty good about that. So I think we're at a point where we can entertain a motion. Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make the motion to adopt resolution option A, which includes a full renovation scope for the Marsh Health and Wellness Center.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Councilmember Romali.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll second.
So I have a motion for resolution option A by Councilmember Calvert and a second by Councilmember Romali. Ms. Kuzman, would you please call roll?
Calvert,
Yes.
Romali,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Shack.
Yes, motion carries. So this is just the first step in this, and we'll see where it brings us. A lot of unknowns at the legislature, I think, this year as well. So we've reserved our right to move this forward. All right, hopefully we can cruise through these next items. We're on item 15. 15A is boards and commissions, reappointments. Mr. Funk.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. And before we move on, and my apologies not to belabor the last discussion item, but I just want to acknowledge, I think even mostly for the public, the listening public, and for our residents, these are hard. These are hard conversations because we're involving the fiscal management of the city and the fiscal stewardship of the city. Staff doesn't take that lightly. I know you as a mayor and council don't take that lightly. And what makes it hard in these conversations is that the city has assets, and we have very expensive assets, whether it's the aging infrastructure of our water and sewer pipes that have been referenced, our facilities. We have significant investments. And so being stewards of the money, the taxpayer money and our assets, comes down to making some really long-term decision making, and that's what you're doing this evening together with staff and looking at how do we best position this city financially long term. How do we invest in our facilities long term? Those aren't easy decisions because these are big numbers, and so thank you for your conversation in our study sessions and for tonight. Staff will continue to work with council and our community on this process because it is a process, and I know that goes without saying, and we've talked about that, but thank you for that conversation. It's not easy because with the city budget and with the city taxpayer dollars, we're doing our best to make sure, again, that we're positioning the city long term, and that's part of this conversation is that long term view of how do we, again, best invest in our assets. So thank you. Then with that, Mayor Shack, next item on that agenda, as you've noted, is item 15A, which is board and commission reappointments. There is an action for you this evening, which is a motion to approve the reappointments of the Minnetonka boards and commissions. In the staff report, and I'll just go through that really quickly, with the current terms, those are through January 31st of 2026. And with all of our boards and commissions, we do have generally term limits on most of those boards and commissions. The appointments that you see noted in the staff report is everyone that has been contacted that are eligible for reappointment. The members noted have expressed in serving another term. Staff recognizes the value and that they bring and their attendance that they bring to these meetings. Staff does recommend the reappointments as noted. Mayor Shack, I don't know if I don't think we've gone through the listing all those names previously because there's a lot of them noted there. It's really kind of signals that our boards and commissioners are also vested in the city. And I think that's significant. We are advertising for a couple appointments, and those are coming up. And so we really have limited appointments or openings. We have two on the park board, and one on the planning commission, if I'm not mistaken. And so again, I think signifies just the vested interests our residents have. So with that, staff recommends that you approve the appointments as noted in the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Funk. Any comments or questions? Otherwise, I would entertain a motion. Councilmember Wilburn.
I move that we approve the reappointments to the Minnetonka boards and commissions as noted in the staff report.
Thank you. And Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Wilburn, a second by Councilmember Calvert. Ms. Kuzman, please call roll.
Calvert,
Yes.
Vermaley,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Shack.
Yes, motion carries. And thank you to those folks who volunteer their time. They get some catered meals, nothing too extravagant for their time. And so we really, really appreciate
Sandwiches.
the work that they put in. Okay, 15B, which is council and staff annual appointments. Mr. Funk, you were going to take this one too?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. The recommended action for tonight is a motion to approve the council appointments on the organizations listed in the packet. This stems back to the study session on December 15th, 2025. Both city council and staff recognized different boards and commissions that we serve on, and those are noted again in the staff report. I think, council, you've had an opportunity to weigh in on which assignments you're interested in. If something was missed, we would want that pointed out this evening. So if there's something in there that council you feel you want to join, please, I think staff would request that you entertain that here this evening, and certainly recognize that to the mayor. Staff has gone through those same assignments, and so staff has committed ourselves to those various boards and commissions that we'll serve on. So very quickly, I think that's nothing else to report on that other than final action based on earlier conversation. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Funk. First, I'll just make sure we didn't miss anything or get something transposed. Is everybody kind of signed up for what they're looking for? I think so. Then I would take a motion to approve the council appointments. Councilmember Foster Bolton.
I make a motion to approve the council appointments.
And Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Foster Bolton, a second by Councilmember Calvert. Ms. Kuzman, please call roll.
Calvert,
Yes.
Vermaley,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Shack.
Yes, motion carries. Thanks everybody for their willingness to kind of put in some extra time on these things. Appreciate it. All right, item number 15C, appointments for the zoning ordinance update work group. And last one, Mr. Funk, you're going to take this as well.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and Council. As noted in the staff report, there have been some changes to some folks. I'll talk about that here in a second. And so it's really to recognize some changes in status. And the recommended motion is to approve the following changes to the zoning ordinance work group. One, Brad Wiersum to serve as resident. When Brad was our former mayor, he served on the work group. With Mr. Wiersum no longer as mayor, the recommendation is to continue to have him on the work group because he's put in the effort and he's been part of that work group, so can have him continue serving, however, as a resident. So it notes him as a resident. And then I'll skip down to then Rebecca Shack. So as our new mayor, with Mayor Shack serving as mayor, to then appoint Mayor Shack as a council representative to that work group. Currently, Dr. Wilburn, Councilmember Wilburn, also serves on that, and we've had previously Mayor Wiersum, or former Mayor Wiersum, and Kimberly Wilburn, and this action would recognize Rebecca Shack, or Mayor Shack, and at-large member Dr. Wilburn. And then with Alex Hansen, he was a member of the Planning Commission. He's no longer on the Planning Commission because he has termed out. And again, giving his recognition of the time served on this as a Planning Commission member to appoint Mr. Hansen as a resident after January 31st, because his term as Planning Commission member doesn't expire till then. So this action takes into account that date. So with that, Mayor and Council, turn it back over to you for questions or action.
Thank you, Mr. Funk. Any questions or comments about this? Pretty straightforward. Councilmember Calvert.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't really have any questions. I will just once again let people in the audience know that we did have a chance to sort of review this situation in study session. And so this is not the first time we've looked at it. And I think especially when we're talking about something like zoning ordinance work group, it would be a grievous blow to lose the 23 years of city experience of Mayor Emeritus Wearsome, or our longstanding soon-to-be former Planning Commissioner Alex Hansen. And of course, it's very important to have the mayor on a work group like that. So to have Mayor Shack serving as our council representative, I think all of this makes a whole lot of sense to me.
Right. Do you want to make the motion?
Sure. I make the motion. I move approval of the zoning ordinance work group appointments of Brad Wearsome, Alex Hansen, Rebecca Shack.
Thank you. And I would take Councilmember Romali.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Calvert, a second by Councilmember Romali. Ms. Kuzman, please call roll.
Calvert,
Yes.
Romali,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Shack.
Yes, motion carries. All right, on to item number 16, which is adjournment. Are we going to keep the trend, or what are we going to do? Okay, Councilmember Wilburn
I move adjournment.
and Councilmember Calvert.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Wilburn, a second by Councilmember Calvert. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Okay, but we have an EDA meeting, so it's going to be quick. Don't go away.
There's more. Yes.
Oh, okay. So I will thank you, everybody, for coming. I will call this meeting to order. That is the January 12th, 2026 meeting of the Economic Development Authority. And Ms. Kuzman, would you please call roll?
Foster Bolton.
Here.
Wilburn,
Here.
Calvert,
Here.
Romali,
Here.
Coakley,
Here.
Shack.
Here. All right. Item number 2 is approval of the agenda. Ms. Wishnack, anything?
No changes, Mayor.
All right.
Or President, sorry.
Thank you. Councilmember Commissioner Calvert.
Thank you, Madam President. I move approval of the agenda.
Commissioner Foster Bolton.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Calvert, second by Commissioner Foster Bolton. Ms. Kuzman, please call roll.
Foster Bolton,
Here. Yes.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Calvert,
Yes.
Romali,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Shack.
Yes, motion carries. Item number 4 is approval of the minutes, and we have one for A, the December 8th, 2025 EDA minutes. Commissioner Calvert.
Thank you, Madam President. I move approval of the December 8th, 2025 EDA meeting minutes.
And Commissioner Coakley.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Calvert, a second by Commissioner Coakley. Ms. Kuzman, please call roll.
Foster Bolton,
Yes.
Wilburn,
Yes.
Calvert,
Yes.
Romali,
Yes.
Coakley,
Yes.
Shack.
Yes, motion carries. 5A is our one business item, and that is the 2026 election of EDA officers. Ms. Wishnack.
Thank you. President and Commissioners, this is just a formal action you take every January, so it's nothing new to you. You have your election of officers in the resolution, but you also have your bylaws, so both are laid out for you. I would say the only thing that needs attention, the president is obviously the person who holds the mayor seat, which is you, President Shack. Vice President is Commissioner Foster Bolton, and then there has to be a treasurer appointed, so we don't have a name for that. Don't forget, though, Mr. Nelson is the assistant treasurer, so he is performing the duties of treasurer. The secretary is the city clerk, And then the executive director is the city manager, which in this case is Mr. Funk. So with that, Mayor, you just have to identify the one person on the treasurer, and then you should be good to go on passing the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wishnek. I would suggest that we just keep it simple and we go with the alternate acting mayor of Commissioner Romali, if that's okay. Okay. I've never seen anybody have to do anything related to this, so if that's gives you any peace of mind.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson.
All right. Any questions or comments or alternative suggestions? No, okay, not seeing any. I would take a motion. Commissioner Calvert.
Thank you, Madam President. I move adoption of the resolution electing the officers for the 2026 EDA, including Commissioner Romali as treasurer.
Thank you. And Commissioner Foster Bolton.
I second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Calvert, second from Commissioner Foster Bolton. Ms. Kuzman, please call roll.
Foster Bolton.
Yes.
Wilburn.
Yes.
Calvert.
Yes.
Romali.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Shack.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, adjournment.
I move adjournment.
Motion by Commissioner Wilburn.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Calvert. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for your assistance tonight.